The world outside begins to soften its edges, painted in the deep and gentle colors of the coming night. Against a canvas of bruised purples and the last warm blush of orange, the familiar shape of home presents itself not as a structure of wood and stone, but as a silhouette of pure comfort. It stands quietly, a dark and welcoming form, its roofline a gentle stroke against the fading light, promising a sanctuary from the day that has now almost completely passed into memory. The streetlights, one by one, begin to awaken, casting a gentle honeyed glow upon the pavement, each one a small star guiding the final steps of the journey. A subtle coolness hangs in the air, a clean and refreshing presence that carries the faintest scent of damp earth and the distant, sweet perfume of night-blooming flowers from a neighbor's garden. It is the kind of air that feels cleansing to breathe, a gentle breeze that whispers against the skin, carrying away the lingering weight of conversations and commitments. This quiet scent of the evening is the first true welcome, an olfactory signal that the time for striving is over and the time for simply being is about to begin. The world's clamor fades with each soft inhalation. Through the gathering twilight, one window on the upper floor catches the very last vestige of the sun's fire. It does not shine brightly, but rather holds the light in a deep amber glow, like a preserved piece of the day's warmth. It looks like a slow, sleeping eye, content and peaceful. Beside it, the fine, dark lines of a bare tree branch are etched against the sky, a delicate and intricate piece of natural art standing in silent witness to this peaceful transition from day to night. A feeling of profound release accompanies the sight, an unspoken permission to let go. It manifests as a long, slow exhalation that seems to carry with it the accumulated tension from the shoulders, the tightness from the jaw, the very rhythm of the day's hurried pace. A quiet thought forms, simple and pure. The journey is complete. This is the anchor point, the destination that gives meaning to all of the motion that came before it. The soul recognizes its harbor before the body has even reached the door. This image of this house against this sky is not a singular moment, but a composite of countless evenings just like it. It is a memory woven from years of arrivals, each one a slightly different shade, yet all sharing this same fundamental feeling of return. It is the visual embodiment of safety, a constant shape in the ever-shifting landscape of life, a quiet promise that here, within these walls, there is a place of unwavering peace and acceptance. And so, a silent intention solidifies in the heart. The day with its demands and its noise will not cross the threshold. It will be left here on the path, to be washed away by the night. The only thing to be carried inside is this feeling of quiet gratitude, a deep appreciation for the simple, profound gift of having a place to come home to. The mind gently resolves to embrace the stillness that waits within, to honor it with full and undivided attention. As this decision settles, the shoulders, which had been held just a little too high, consciously drop, releasing a line of tension that had gone unnoticed. The grip on the strap of a bag loosens, the fingers uncurling slightly as if letting go of a rope they had been tightly holding. The pace of walking naturally slows, the steps becoming more measured, more deliberate, each one savoring these last few moments of being outside, on the very edge of sanctuary. The head tilts back just slightly, a slow and graceful movement to take in the full expanse of the darkening sky one last time. The eyes drink in the deep, velvety colors, tracing the last threads of light as they dissolve into the indigo. A deep cleansing breath is drawn in through the nose, a conscious act of absorbing the tranquility of the evening, of filling the self with the calm that the world so generously offers at this hour. The sensation of the cool, clean air filling the lungs is immediate and clarifying. It feels as it rinses the mind, washing away the residue of trivial concerns and leaving behind a sense of clean, quiet space. The world seems to fall into a deeper silence in the wake of that single mindful breath, and the body feels lighter, poised and ready to enter the awaiting peace. The pathway leading to the front door is made of large, uneven stones, their surfaces worn smooth by the passage of seasons and of steps. In the soft, diffused light from the single porch lamp, their textures are revealed, a tapestry of gentle grays and muted earth tones, with thin veins of darker stone running through them like intricate script. Shadows pool in the spaces between them, where tiny patches of resilient moss grow in the cool dampness, creating a soft and living mosaic underfoot. The sound that rises to meet the ear is not sharp or intrusive, but a soft, rhythmic shuffling. It is the gentle scuff of leather soles against the slightly gritty surface of the stone, a sound that is both personal and ancient. Each step has its own quiet note, a gentle crunch here on a stray pebble, a softer whisper there on a patch of moss. It is a humble and grounding percussion, the unique rhythm of this specific return, a sound that belongs only to this moment. One particular stone just before the final step onto the porch holds a special character. It is a deep slate grey, and in the gentle light, tiny flecks of quartz embedded within its surface catch the light and offer a subtle, fleeting sparkle, like a secret galaxy held within the rock. A single fallen leaf, coloured a deep burgundy, rests upon its surface, damp with evening dew, its edges curled delicately inward. It is a small, perfect painting of autumn's quiet beauty. With each soft footfall, a sense of being firmly grounded in the present moment deepens. This physical connection to the earth, to this specific path, is a reassurance, a confirmation that this is real, that the sanctuary is just ahead. Each step is a deliberate act of leaving the vast, indifferent world behind and approaching a space of personal significance. It is a walking meditation, the mind focused solely on the simple, repeated motion of moving forward toward peace. This gentle sound of shoe on stone becomes a powerful associative trigger. It is the sound of countless other evenings, the consistent and reliable prelude to the moment of entry. It is the soundtrack of transition, the audio cue that signals the end of the public self and the beginning of the private one. It is a sound layered with the ghosts of past worries, dissolved, and past joys quietly celebrated upon this very path. A wave of profound gratitude arises for something as simple as this stone walkway. A thankfulness for its solidity, for its steadfast presence through sun and rain, for the simple, uncelebrated job it does in bridging the world and the home. There is a quiet realization that the journey to peace is not just about the destination, but also about the small certain steps one takes to get there, and the reliable ground beneath one's feet. The gaze, which had been soft and unfocused, now drifts downward, watching the simple, mesmerizing act of the feet moving, one after the other, across the familiar stones. At the same time, the fingers of one hand slip into a pocket, the motion slow and unhurried, beginning the search for the object that will grant passage. It is a gesture of anticipation, the body already preparing for the next stage of the ritual of arrival. One foot lifts and then settles with deliberate, gentle care onto the final, broad stone that serves as the doorstep. The body comes to a complete, momentary stillness, a pause held for a beat longer than necessary. It is a moment of quiet reverence, a silent acknowledgement of the boundary being crossed, a final exhalation before the door is opened. The weight of the body shifts, creating a subtle change in sensation, a feeling of greater stability on the wider, more even surface. The sound changes too, the soft scuff of stone giving way to a more muted, solid contact. This tiny shift in the sensory landscape is the final confirmation of arrival at the threshold itself. The journey across the path is officially over. The door is now all that remains. The search within the pocket concludes as fingers brush against the familiar cold shape of metal. The object is drawn out and rests in the open palm, a single house key. It feels substantial, its weight a small solid presence in the hand. The cool, smooth surface of the brass seems to absorb the warmth from the skin, a small and intimate transfer of energy. It lies there, inert and yet full of potential, a small tool of immense significance. The first sensation is one of temperature. The metal is cold from the evening air, a stark and definite contrast to the warmth of the skin. This coldness is grounding, a tangible reminder of the world outside, the world that is about to be left behind. Following the cold is the sensation of its edges and ridges, the distinct teeth of the key pressing gently into the lines of the palm, a familiar and unique topography known purely by touch. In the soft glow from the porch light, the key gleams with a dull, golden luster. It is not new and shiny, but worn with use. Tiny scratches and microscopic nicks mar its surface, each one a testament to its history, a record of countless comings and goings. The light catches on the rounded, worn-down edge of the bow, the part held most often, polishing it to a soft sheen that no factory could replicate. A quiet feeling of ownership and belonging settles in the heart. This small object represents so much more than access. It is a symbol of place, of privacy, of a space in the world that is unequivocally one's own. To hold this key is to hold the concept of home in a tangible form, a small piece of metal that unlocks a universe of peace and personal history. It is a simple but profound comfort. The mind drifts to the thought of how many times this very key has made this same small journey from pocket to palm, from palm to lock. It has been held in hands that were cold from winter, damp from summer rain, or trembling with fatigue. It has been a constant companion through every mood and season, a silent metallic witness to the flow of life, always performing its one simple, crucial task without fail. And in that moment, a sense of gratitude for its simple, reliable existence arises. It is easy to overlook such a mundane object, yet its function is so central to the feeling of security and sanctuary. A silent internal word of thanks is offered to this small piece of brass for its unwavering service, for being the steadfast guardian of the boundary between the outer world and the inner sanctum. The fingers of the hand, which had been resting flat, begin to curl gently around the key. The thumb and forefinger find their natural position, gripping it firmly but without tension. The other hand moves toward the door, not to touch it but simply to hover near the lock, preparing for the next movement in this quiet, practiced sequence. With a slow and deliberate motion, the hand carrying the key is raised. The arm moves smoothly, without haste, bringing the key toward the dark, small void of the keyhole. The eyes focus on the target, guiding the final inches of the approach, the entire body's attention centered on this one, small and significant act of union. The tip of the key makes contact with the metal faceplate of the lock, producing a faint, high-pitched metallic whisper. Then, as it finds its home, it slides into the keyhole with a soft, satisfying sound of metal gliding against metal, a perfect and precise fit. The cool sensation of the doorknob beneath the waiting fingertips of the other hand serves as the final, tactile confirmation that the connection has been made. The lock itself is a simple, traditional mechanism, its brass faceplate worn and slightly tarnished around the keyhole, a subtle darkening that speaks of years of use. It is set into a sturdy wooden door, the grain of the wood visible even in the dim light, its surface painted a deep and calming color. The entire apparatus feels solid and reliable, a quiet sentinel guarding the entrance to the home. With the key now fully seated, a gentle pressure is applied. The turning motion is not forced or rushed, but slow and steady. There is a moment of resistance, a slight tension within the hidden mechanism, and then the sound comes, a single, resonant, and deeply satisfying click. It is a sound that is both mechanical and magical, the definitive sound of unlocking, of passage being granted. It echoes for a brief moment in the quiet air. The key, having fulfilled its purpose, is now just a piece of metal again, its potential released. But the doorknob, previously immobile and solid, now has a subtle give to it. The light from within the house, previously sealed away, now seems to press against the edges of the door, a faint and promising line of warmth that hints at the peace held within the walls. That clean, mechanical sound of the tumblers falling into place brings an immediate and profound sense of relief. It is the sound of a barrier dissolving, the final obstacle between the weary self and the restorative comfort of home vanishing. It is a sound that speaks directly to the soul, signaling that the transition is now not just possible, but imminent. A wave of calm washes over the spirit. This sound is the culmination of the day's entire narrative. Every task completed, every challenge met, every mile traveled, all of it leads to this single satisfying click. It is the sound of resolution, the auditory equivalent of a final, full stop at the end of a long and complicated sentence. It is the sound of permission to finally truly rest. A quiet anticipation builds, a gentle and pleasant eagerness to experience the waiting comforts. The mind's eye pictures the soft light of a familiar lamp, the comfort of a favorite chair, the encompassing silence of the rooms within. The sound of the lock has not just opened a door, but has also opened the mind to the imminent embrace of the sanctuary. It is a moment of pure, uncomplicated hope. The fingers that were holding the key in its turned position now relax their grip. The other hand, which had been resting on the doorknob, prepares to take over, its fingers curling more firmly around the cool, smooth sphere. There is a slight shifting of weight from one foot to the other, a small adjustment of the body in preparation for the forward motion of entry. The hand on the key gently turns it back to its original position and then smoothly withdraws it from the lock. Simultaneously, the other hand begins to turn the doorknob. The latch inside the door retracts with a softer, secondary click, and the door itself begins to move, swinging inward on silent, well-oiled hinges. The movement is slow, deliberate, and full of a quiet grace. As the door swings open, the air from inside the house drifts out to greet the senses. It is warmer than the air outside, and it carries the unique and subtle scent of the home, a complex and comforting blend of old books, clean linen, and the faint, lingering ghost of a fragrant herbal tea. The first slice of the familiar, softly lit interior is revealed, a sliver of golden light and welcoming shadow. The threshold presents itself as a distinct line, a clear demarcation between the cool stone of the porch and the warm wood of the entryway floor. It is more than just a physical boundary. It feels like a tangible line between two different states of being. To cross it is to consciously step out of the public world of effort and into the private world of ease. The first step across this line is taken slowly, with a sense of reverence. The foot lifts from the outside world and lands with a soft, solid sound on the wooden floor inside. The air immediately feels different, warmer, stiller, and holding a profound silence that seems to absorb all external noise. It is an immersion into an atmosphere of pure tranquility, a gentle and immediate embrace. The change in the quality of the light is instantaneous and profound. The dim, diffused light of the evening is replaced by the specific, warm, and golden glow of a single lamp left on in the hallway. This light does not seek to illuminate everything, but rather pools in gentle, comforting circles, leaving the corners in soft, inviting shadow and creating a space that feels intimate and safe. A feeling of absolute sanctuary descends, a sense of having passed through a portal into a different realm. Here, the pressures of the world cannot reach. The silence is not an absence of sound, but a positive and nurturing presence in itself. It is a silence that holds the history of all the quiet, peaceful moments that have ever unfolded within these walls. This act of crossing the threshold connects to a deep and ancient human archetype, the return to the cave, the shelter, the safe haven after the hunt or the journey. It is a primal and deeply ingrained ritual, a fundamental pattern of living that resonates in the very core of being. Each homecoming is a reenactment of this timeless story of finding safety from the wilderness. The mind lets go of its final thread of connection to the outside world. There is a conscious decision to be fully present in this space, to inhabit this peace completely. A quiet sense of gratitude fills the heart for the simple existence of this threshold and the profound transformation that occurs in the simple act of crossing it. There is nothing else to do and nowhere else to be. There is only here and now. The body, now fully inside, pivots gently. The hand that was holding the doorknob releases it and reaches back for the edge of the door. The movement is unhurried, a slow and graceful arc, the body acting with an instinctual knowledge born of countless repetitions of this same gentle ritual. A deep breath is taken in, savoring the warm, still air of the home. The hand guides the heavy wooden door as it swings shut. There is no haste, no urgency to slam it against the night. Instead, it is a controlled and gentle closure, a deliberate and mindful act of sealing the sanctuary. The arm extends, following the door through its arc until it is just inches from the frame, ensuring a quiet final contact. As the door nestles into its frame, the latch clicks softly into place, a sound that is muffled and deep. This is followed by a profound and encompassing silence. The final faint sounds of the outside world, the distant hum of traffic, the rustle of leaves, are completely extinguished, replaced by the deep and resonant stillness of the house. The separation is now complete. The sound of the door closing is the final note in the symphony of arrival. It is a sound of finality, of closure on the day that has passed. It is a soft, deep thud that seems to affirm the solidity and safety of the home, a gentle but firm declaration that the world and its demands have been left behind. It is a sound that brings an immediate sense of peace and security. This buffered sound is the acoustic blanket that tucks the home in for the night. It is a sound that resonates not just in the ears, but in the chest, a gentle vibration that soothes the nervous system. It recalls the feeling of being a child, safe in bed, listening to the gentle sounds of the house settling for the night, feeling protected and utterly secure from the vast darkness outside. With that final soft sound, A profound and complete sense of peace descends. The transition is finished. The journey is over. There is a deep, internal sigh of relief, a complete surrender to the comfort and silence of the now sealed refuge. A quiet, unspoken thought forms. I am home. I am safe. And now, I can finally rest. The body remains still for a moment, simply standing in the quiet dimness of the entryway. There is no rush to move on, no immediate agenda. The purpose of this moment is simply to absorb the feeling of being here, to let the silence and the warmth seep into the very bones. The eyes close for a second, a final small gesture of surrender. The hand that closed the door now moves to the lock, the thumb turning the deadbolt. The resulting sound is a heavy, solid clunk, a deep and resonant noise that speaks of security and finality. It is a deliberate action, the final step in the ritual of securing the fortress of solitude for the night. The consequence of this action is not just auditory, but psychological. The sound of the bolt sliding home is the sound of absolute safety. It is the final, definitive drawing of the boundary. The gentle silence that follows feels even deeper, even more profound, now that it is protected by a lock of solid steel. The house holds its breath, and a perfect, unwavering stillness settles over everything. Just inside the door, a small, dark wooden table stands against the wall, its surface polished to a soft, deep sheen that drinks in the warm light from the single lamp beside it. The light does not flood the space, but rather creates an intimate pool of honeyed gold, casting long, gentle shadows that soften the corners of the entryway. Upon this table rests a small ceramic dish, a simple, unassuming object made profound by its purpose. It waits, still and silent, a designated vessel for the ritual of return, its glazed surface a small circle of deep, tranquil color in the warm dimness. The air in the house is profoundly still, a silence so deep that it seems to have a physical presence. This quiet allows the most subtle of scents to emerge, the faint, clean fragrance of old wood and a hint of beeswax from the table's last polishing, a smell that speaks of care and time. It is the scent of the house itself, a unique and comforting perfume that is instantly recognizable, an olfactory signature of safety and peace that hangs gently in the warm, unmoving air. The dish is a circle of imperfect, handmade beauty. Its color is a deep and vibrant cobalt blue, the glaze thick and glossy, capturing a perfect, distorted reflection of the lamp's soft light. Near the rim, a tiny flaw in the firing process has left a small, milky nebula of lighter blue, a unique mark that distinguishes it from any other. The edge is not perfectly smooth but feels organic, shaped by the hands that made it, giving it a character of warmth and authenticity. Holding the key, the small, cold piece of metal that granted entry, there is a sense of its journey being complete. It has served its function, and now it too deserves to rest. The simple act of putting it in its proper place feels like the first official step in restoring order, not just to the house, but to the mind. It is a tiny, symbolic gesture that begins the process of unwinding, of transitioning from the chaos of the outside to the calm of the inside. This small tray, this simple act, connects to a long chain of quiet evenings. It evokes the memory of the day it was found, perhaps in a small sunlit shop in a forgotten town, a quiet moment of discovery and simple pleasure. The dish is not just an object, but a repository of that peaceful memory, and each time the key is placed within it, that feeling of quiet joy is subtly rekindled, a gentle echo from a happy past. A quiet resolution forms in the mind to cherish these small rituals. In a world that so often feels rushed and chaotic, there is a deep and profound power in these tiny, deliberate acts of mindfulness. It is a decision to find the sacred in the mundane, to treat the simple act of putting away a key with the same reverence as a formal meditation. This small dish is not just a dish, it is an altar to the present moment. The hand that holds the key, which had been hanging loosely at the side, now begins to rise. The movement is not swift, but slow and measured, as if the air itself were thick and viscous. The fingers adjust their grip slightly, turning the key so it lies flat, parallel to the floor, preparing for its gentle release. The eyes focus intently on the deep blue center of the dish, the target for this small and meaningful offering. With the hand poised directly above the tray, the fingers slowly, deliberately uncurl. The key is not dropped, but rather released, falling the short distance with a sense of gentle purpose. For a fleeting instant, it seems to hang in the warm air before gravity takes hold. Its brass form a streak of dull gold against the deep blue backdrop of the waiting ceramic. The sound, when it comes, is exquisite. A single, clear, and resonant chime as the metal makes contact with the glazed ceramic surface. It is a pure, clean note that sings out in the profound silence of the entryway, vibrating for a moment, before gracefully fading into the stillness. The key now rests in its place, gleaming softly in the lamplight, and the hand that released it feels strangely and wonderfully lighter. The weight of the day has a physical form. It is the subtle but persistent downward pull of a coat on the shoulders, or the focused pressure of a bag strap, digging into the muscle between the neck and the shoulder. In the soft light of the entryway, this garment, this carrier of burdens, is a tangible representation of the world outside, its fabric holding the memory of the day's journey, its pockets full of the tools of labor and obligation. A faint, almost imperceptible scent of the outdoor world still clings to the fabric, the cool, clean smell of the evening air, a hint of exhaust from a passing car, the faintest trace of rain. It is the smell of movement, of commerce, of society. To breathe it in is to be reminded of the role that has just been played. There is also the soft, subtle sound of the fabric itself, a quiet rustle of wool or a faint creak of leather with every small movement. Upon close inspection, the strap of the bag reveals the story of its service. The leather is worn to a soft, supple texture where it has been held most often, its color darkened with a patina of use. A single thread has come loose near the buckle, a tiny, insignificant flaw that speaks to its constant companionship. The fabric of the coat is creased behind the elbows and across the back, a map of the day's posture and positions. The immediate feeling is a deep and visceral yearning for release. The muscles underneath the weight are tired, and the mind instinctively knows that letting go of this physical burden is the next critical step in the process of letting go of the mental and emotional burdens of the day. There is an anticipation of the freedom that is only a moment away, a coming relief that is almost palpable. This act of removal is a powerful metaphor. It is the shedding of a skin, the unburdening of a shell that is necessary for navigating the outside world. It brings to mind the image of a traveler at the end of a long pilgrimage, finally laying down a heavy pack at the door of a long-awaited sanctuary. It is a conscious uncoupling from the identity of the day, the employee, the citizen, the commuter, in order to reclaim the simpler, more authentic self. A clear intention settles to leave the day in this coat, in this bag. The worries about tomorrow's tasks, the lingering echoes of difficult conversations, the residue of stress, all of it will be bundled up and set aside with this physical object. The person who wore this coat is not the same person who will walk through the rest of the house. A transformation is about to occur. The opposite hand lifts, moving with a newfound sense of purpose toward the shoulder bearing the load. The fingers are slightly spread, ready to grasp the strap. The shoulder itself gives a small preparatory shrug, a twitch of muscle anticipating its imminent liberation. The body's weight shifts slightly, finding a more stable center of gravity for the movement to come. The fingers close around the strap, the texture of the material familiar beneath their touch. With a single, smooth and continuous motion, the hand lifts the strap upwards and forwards, guiding it over the head. As the weight is transferred from the shoulder to the arm, the body follows through, shrugging the coat from the shoulders or allowing the bag to swing free. The movement is fluid and deeply satisfying. The release is instantaneous and profound. A wave of lightness spreads through the shoulder, down the back and up into the neck. The muscles, freed from their constant subtle work, begin to relax. The coat, or bag, makes a soft, muffled sound as it is hung on a wooden hook or placed gently on the bench, a quiet sigh of fabric and leather that signals the end of its duty for the day. At the edge of the entryway sits a low, simple bench, its wooden surface worn smooth and dark with age. It is here that the next stage of the ritual unfolds. The light from the lamp catches the gentle curve of its legs and the straight, simple line of its seat, making it an island of warmth and invitation. The focus of the world narrows to this small piece of furniture and the task it enables. As the body lowers onto the bench, the old wood emits a soft, low groan, a familiar sound of welcome. It is the sound of the house accepting the weight, both literally and figuratively. The sensation is one of solid, reliable support. The hands come to rest on the knees, and for a moment, there is just the feeling of sitting, of being held and supported by this steadfast object. The gaze drifts downward to the shoes. They are the armor for the feet, the sturdy interface between the body and the hard, unyielding surfaces of the world. A small scuff mark is visible on the toe of one, a faint smudge of dried mud near the heel of the other. The laces are tied in a firm, practical knot, a small, tight bundle of tension that mirrors the tension held in the feet themselves. A deep sense of gratitude arises for these shoes, for the protection and support they have provided throughout the day, and with that gratitude comes an even deeper desire to offer release. The feet, encased for hours, feel tired and constrained. The thought of freeing them, of letting them stretch and breathe, is a simple but incredibly powerful longing for comfort. This simple act of untying a knot feels profoundly symbolic. It is the loosening of the final tie to the day's obligations. Every step taken in these shoes was a step in service of some external demand. To unlace them is to declare that the time for walking the world's paths is over. Now is the time for stillness, for rest, for walking only on the soft, forgiving floors of home. And so a quiet promise is made to the body, a promise to be gentle, to release every point of constriction, to listen to its needs for softness and ease. The decision is made not to rush this process, but to perform it with mindful attention, treating this small act of self-care as a vital and sacred practice. The world can wait. The body needs this peace. The torso bends forward from the hips, a slow and deliberate inclination. The hands drop from the knees and reach down towards the feet, their movement unhurried and graceful. The fingers hover for a brief second above the intricate knots of the laces, a moment of quiet anticipation before the final act of release begins. The thumb and forefinger of each hand grasp the ends of the laces. With a gentle but firm pull, the knots surrender, dissolving into long, loose strands. The fingers then move to the laces themselves, pulling them free from the eyelets with a soft, whispering sound. The hand then curls around the heel of one shoe, and with a gentle push, the foot slides free, followed by the other. The sensation is one of pure, unadulterated liberation. The feet, finally freed from their confinement, feel wonderfully light. The cool air of the room touches the warm skin, a gentle and refreshing caress. The toes instinctively stretch and wiggle, reveling in their newfound freedom. As the bare or stockinged feet touch the smooth, cool wood of the floor, a deep sense of grounding and ease travels up through the entire body. The transition from the day's attire to the evening's comfort begins. The process is a slow, deliberate shedding of layers, each one representing a different aspect of the public self. The room remains a haven of soft, warm light and deep, enveloping silence, creating a private and safe space for this personal ritual. The focus is entirely on the sensation of fabric and skin, a mindful and tactile meditation. The air in the room, which had felt merely warm, now feels intimately connected to the skin as the first layer of clothing is removed. It touches the newly exposed skin with a gentle, cool kiss, a subtle but distinct change in temperature that heightens awareness of the body. The only sound is the soft whisper of fabric against fabric, the quiet click of a button sliding free from its hole, a tiny, intimate percussion in the stillness. A single button on the cuff of a sleeve catches the light. It is a small, pearlescent disc, its surface swirling with faint, iridescent colors. The thread that holds it in place is wound tightly and neatly, a small marvel of construction. To look at it is to appreciate the small, often unnoticed details of the things that clothe and protect the body throughout the day. With each button undone, with each layer peeled away, there is a corresponding release of a subtle, almost unconscious physical tension. The slight constriction of a collar, the firm line of a waistband, the defined structure of a sleeve. As they fall away, the body feels as if it can expand, taking up more space, breathing more deeply and freely. It is a feeling of coming undone, in the most positive and restorative sense. Each piece of clothing holds a memory, a faint echo of the day. The crisp shirt worn for an important meeting, the sturdy trousers for a long commute. To remove them is to set aside the roles and responsibilities associated with them. It is an act of disarming, of setting down the tools and uniforms of a life lived outside these walls, and returning to a state of simple, unadorned being. A powerful sense of reclaiming the self emerges. This is my body, my skin, my space. The decision is made to honor it, to release it from any form of restriction or pretense. There is a deep and abiding gratitude for the comfort that is about to be embraced, a thankfulness for the simple, profound pleasure of soft clothes, and the freedom to be completely unreservedly at ease. The fingers move to the first button at the collar, a slow and intentional motion. The thumb gently pushes the button through its perfectly sized hole, a small and practiced gesture. The eyes are closed, the better to focus on the tactile sensations, the feeling of the body preparing for a state of deeper relaxation. One by one, the buttons are undone, a slow and rhythmic cascade down the front of the shirt. The fabric loosens, falling away from the skin. The arms are drawn from the sleeves with a smooth, unhurried pull. Each piece of clothing is removed with the same deliberate care, and then folded or placed gently on the bench, not discarded but respectfully set aside. The consequence is a feeling of immense freedom. The air on the skin is no longer a small, localized sensation, but an encompassing embrace. The body feels lighter, untethered, and wonderfully unconstrained. There is a new awareness of posture, a natural softening and relaxing of the shoulders and spine, a physical expression of the inner state of release. From a nearby chest of drawers, the evening's garments are chosen. They are not new or formal, but old and beloved, their comfort deeply ingrained in their very fibers. The scene is one of quiet anticipation, the body now prepared to be clothed not in armor for the world, but in a uniform of pure and simple peace. The soft lamplight seems to make the very fabric glow with a welcoming warmth. The chosen clothes have a scent that is uniquely comforting, a clean smell of lavender and cedar from the drawer, mingled with the faint, familiar scent of home. As they are lifted, the fabric is impossibly soft to the touch, a well-worn cotton or a gentle cashmere that promises a kind and gentle embrace. It is a texture that soothes the skin and the soul at the same time. The focus falls upon a single well-worn seam on the shoulder of the soft shirt. The thread is slightly faded. The stitch is a testament to the garment's long history of providing comfort. It is not a flaw, but a mark of character, a sign of its beloved status. The fabric around the seam is softer than anywhere else, worn to a state of perfect, gentle pliancy. The feeling that arises upon touching the soft fabric is one of being nurtured and cared for. It is a feeling of profound self-compassion, an acknowledgement that after a day of being strong and capable for the world, it is now time to be soft and gentle with oneself. It is an act of kindness, a simple and direct way of offering the body the comfort it has earned. This soft garment is more than just an article of clothing. It is an anchor to countless other nights of quiet and rest. It is imbued with the memory of curling up with a good book, of sipping a warm cup of tea, of deep and dreamless sleep. To put it on is to consciously step into that lineage of peace, to summon the restorative power of all the tranquil moments it has been a part of. A silent intention is set to fully inhabit this comfort, to allow the softness of the fabric to translate into a softness of the mind and spirit. It is a decision to let go of all sharp edges, all hard thoughts, all rigid postures, and to simply melt into a state of complete and total ease. This is not just a change of clothes, it is a change of being. The body prepares to receive this comfort. A slow, deep breath is taken, and on the exhale, the last vestiges of stiffness seem to dissolve from the muscles. The hands pick up the soft shirt, holding it for a moment, feeling its gentle weight and familiar texture before beginning the final stage of the evening's transformation. Slowly, gracefully, the arms are guided into the soft sleeves. The shirt is drawn over the head, and for a moment the world is muted, enclosed in a soft, dark, and comforting space. The garment settles onto the shoulders, its familiar weight a gentle and reassuring presence. The soft trousers are pulled on, their loose fit and gentle fabric an immediate balm. The transformation is complete. The body is now swathed in a layer of pure, unadulterated comfort. The sensation is one of being held, of being gently swaddled. The fabric moves with the body without restraint, a soft second skin that invites only relaxation. Every part of the body that touches the cloth sends a message of soothing peace to the brain. The ritual of arrival is now complete. The body stands for a moment in the center of the quiet entryway, now fully transitioned from the outside world to the inner sanctuary. Clothed in softness, feet bare on the cool wood floor, there is nothing left to do but to fully inhabit the peace that has been so carefully and deliberately cultivated. The house is still, the light is warm, and a profound sense of rightness settles over everything. There is a final physiological need that arises from this deep sense of release. It is the body's own signal that the transition is complete, a physical punctuation mark at the end of the day's long sentence. It is the urge to take a full, deep and cleansing breath, to expel the last remaining phantom of the day's tension from the very bottom of the lungs. The air itself seems to be waiting. It is still and warm, holding the gentle, comforting sense of the home. In this moment, there is no past and no future, only the deep, profound stillness of the present, and the body standing within it, poised on the brink of a complete and total surrender to rest. A quiet sense of culmination washes over the mind. Every step of the journey home, every small ritual of arrival and unburdening, has led to this singular final moment of release. It is not just a physical act, but the climax of a psychological process, a final and definitive severing of the connection to the world of striving and a full embrace of the world of being. This feeling brings to mind the sensation of floating in calm, warm water. The body feels weightless, fully supported, and utterly at peace. The sigh that is about to come is like the final slow exhalation before allowing the water to completely take over, a final act of surrender to the element of tranquility. There is no decision to be made, for the body already knows what it must do. It is an instinctual act, a natural and necessary conclusion to the day. The only intention is to allow it to happen, to give it the space and the permission it needs to be fully and completely expressed, holding nothing back. The shoulders, which had already relaxed, drop another fraction of an inch. The jaw, which had been unconsciously holding a small amount of tension, goes completely slack. The eyes gently close, shutting out the soft light of the room and turning the focus entirely inward to the landscape of the body and the breath. A deep, slow inhalation begins, drawing the warm, still air in through the nose. The chest and belly expand fully, a gentle and complete filling of the lungs from the bottom to the top. The breath is held for a single silent beat, a moment of perfect, quiet fullness, a suspension in time. Then, through softly parted lips, the air is released. It is not a sound of sadness or fatigue, but of pure and utter release. A long, slow, audible sigh that carries with it the last invisible remnants of the day's weight. The sound is soft and gentle, a warm rush of air that is absorbed by the deep silence of the house. As the last of the air leaves the lungs, the entire body softens, melts, and settles into a state of profound and unwavering calm. The first step forward is a step into a different world. The transition from the narrow, defined space of the entryway into the broader expanse of the main living area is marked by a subtle but definite shift in the atmosphere. The ceiling seems to rise, the walls fall away, and the air itself feels lighter, less compressed. A floor lamp tucked into a far corner of the room casts a single wide pool of warm, buttery light, leaving the rest of the space to rest in deep, gentle shadows. The room is a quiet landscape of familiar shapes, its colors muted and soft under the gentle illumination. The air in this larger space moves with a different quality. It is a degree or two warmer, and it carries with it the faint, complex scent of the life lived within these walls. It brushes against the skin, not as a confined presence, but as a soft and open embrace. There is a subtle change in the acoustics as well. The profound silence feels wider, more resonant, as if it has more room to breathe. It is the feeling of entering the very heart of the sanctuary. The boundary between the entryway and the living space is marked on the floor by a single familiar detail. A dark, swirling knot in one of the old wooden floorboards rests precisely on the threshold. Its lines are like a tiny, intricate map, polished to a soft sheen by the passage of countless feet over countless years. This small, perfect imperfection has become a silent and steadfast landmark, the unofficial marker of entry into the realm of true and total comfort. A feeling of mental and spiritual expansion immediately follows the physical one. It is as though the mind, which had been necessarily focused and contained throughout the day, is now being given permission to stretch out, to relax its grip on linear thought. The opening of the physical space prompts an opening of the internal space, a sense of relief that is as profound as it is gentle. It is the feeling of a long, slow, internal exhalation. This sensation is reminiscent of emerging from a dense, quiet forest path into a vast open meadow, just as the sun is beginning to set. The sudden widening of perspective, the feeling of a low sky lifting, the quiet awe of seeing a broader horizon, it is all captured in this simple act of walking from one room into another. It is a transition from a space of passage to a space of being, leaving the narrow trail of the day behind for the open field of the evening. A gentle intention forms, as soft and quiet as the room itself. It is a decision to fully inhabit this feeling of openness, to allow thoughts to come and go without judgment, to let the mind drift and settle as it pleases, much like the dust motes dancing in the lamplight. It is a resolution to let the quiet expanse of the room become a mirror for a quiet and expansive state of mind, free from all constriction. The body pauses for a beat, hesitating on the very edge of this new space, a silent acknowledgement of the transition. The shoulders, which had already found a measure of release, seem to soften and settle even further, letting go of a tension that was almost imperceptible. It is a moment of pure, quiet anticipation, a respectful pause before entering the heart of the home. With a slow and mindful grace, one bare foot lifts from the cool, solid floorboards of the entryway. It moves through the air, crossing the invisible boundary, and then settles with deliberate gentleness onto the wood of the main living area. The weight of the body follows in a single, smooth and flowing motion, completing the passage. The sound of the footfall is subtly different here. The acoustics of the larger room absorb and soften the sound, making it seem deeper and more distant than it did in the confined space of the hall. A faint, almost imperceptible current of warmer air drifts across the skin, a welcoming caress from the still and silent room that now fully surrounds the body. The room is a masterpiece of quiet comfort, painted in light and shadow. The main source of illumination is the tall floor lamp standing beside a deep, comfortable armchair. Its light is not harsh or bright, but a soft, golden glow that turns the immediate area into an inviting island of warmth. The furniture, familiar and beloved, recedes into the gentle darkness, their outlines softened into comfortable, reassuring shapes. The atmosphere is one of profound and unwavering peace. A gentle, radiant warmth emanates from the lamp, a subtle presence that can be felt on the skin from several feet away. It is not an aggressive heat, but a soft, ambient warmth that makes the very air feel thicker and more comforting. It is a warmth that invites one to draw closer, to enter its circle of gentle light and rest for a while. The eye is drawn to the lampshade itself, the source of this gentle radiance. It is made of a simple, cream-colored fabric with a subtle, nubby texture. The light from the bulb within transforms the material, making it almost translucent and highlighting the delicate crisscrossing threads of its weave. Along the top edge, a fine line of dust has settled, a tiny, humble detail that speaks of a quiet, lived-in reality. A deep and pervasive sense of calm settles in the bones. This view, this exact arrangement of light and furniture, is the visual definition of home. Its familiarity is not a source of boredom, but of deep and abiding reassurance. It is a silent confirmation that all is well, that the world is in its proper order, and that here in this space there is a constant and reliable peace. The scene feels less like a real room and more like a timeless painting. It is a quiet, domestic, still life, capturing a perfect moment of tranquility. The soft light, the deep shadows, the silent, waiting furniture, it all evokes a sense of permanence, a feeling that this peaceful tableau has existed long before this evening and will exist long after. It is a small, perfect anchor in the chaotic river of time. A wave of quiet gratitude washes over the spirit. It is a thankfulness for the simple, profound gift of stability. In a world that is constantly shifting and changing, the steadfast presence of these familiar objects, arranged in this familiar way, is a source of immense comfort. A silent word of thanks is offered up for this unchanging and deeply peaceful sight. The head remains perfectly still, but the eyes begin to move, embarking on a slow and gentle exploration of the room. They do not search or seek, but simply observe, drifting from one familiar shape to another. It is a lazy and meditative journey, beginning in the deepest shadows and moving slowly toward the light. The gaze travels without hurry across the quiet landscape. It traces the long, low silhouette of the sofa against the wall, lingers on the gentle, welcoming curve of the armchair's back, and follows the solid, vertical lines of the bookshelf standing silently in the corner. It is a visual caress, a slow and loving acknowledgement of each piece of this personal sanctuary. As the eyes slowly adjust to the low light, subtle details begin to emerge from the enveloping shadows. The faint, silvery glint of a glass picture frame on a side table, the varied textures of the cushions piled on the sofa, the dark, glossy sheen of a polished wooden surface. The room slowly, gently, reveals its quiet secrets, deepening the feeling of intimacy and profound belonging. In the center of the wooden floor lies a large, thick rug. It is a deep, warm color that seems to drink the soft light from the lamp, making it an island of rich, saturated color in the gentle dimness of the room. Its presence softens the hard lines of the space, promising a texture of comfort and warmth, a welcoming contrast to the cool, polished wood that surrounds it. The temperature difference between the bare floor and the rug is immediate. The wood is cool against the skin, but the thick fibers of the rug hold a gentle, insulating warmth. It is a subtle but distinct sensation, a feeling of stepping onto a surface that is not just soft but also nurturing, a ground that offers a quiet and comforting heat. The pile of the rug is deep and luxurious, a soft and slightly shaggy texture that invites the touch. Individual fibers catch the lamplight, revealing subtle variations in their color, a complex tapestry of muted tones. In one spot, the pile is slightly crushed, a temporary shadow left by a previous footstep, a fleeting and personal mark on the surface of this soft and yielding landscape. The moment the bare foot touches the rug, a jolt of simple, uncomplicated pleasure travels up through the body. It is an immediate sensation of comfort, a feeling of being cushioned and supported. The softness is a welcome relief, a gentle and forgiving surface that seems to instantly soothe the tired soles of the feet. It is a feeling of being held and welcomed from the ground up. This simple, tactile pleasure triggers a cascade of other comforting memories. It recalls the feeling of walking on soft, cool grass on a summer morning, the deep warmth of a thick woolen blanket on a cold winter's night, the gentle and unconditional softness of a beloved pet's fur. It is a texture that speaks a universal language of safety, gentleness, and care. A conscious decision is made to simply stand here for a moment and savor this feeling, to not rush onward to the next task or thought, but to remain fully present with this pure and simple sensory experience. It is a moment of profound self-kindness, an offering of uncomplicated pleasure to a body that has worked hard throughout the day. Having taken that first step from the wood onto the rug, the body pauses. The other foot, still resting on the cool, smooth hardness of the floor, waits its turn. The toes curl slightly in anticipation, eager to join their partner in the deep, enveloping softness that waits just a step away. Slowly, deliberately, the second foot lifts from the wooden floor. It moves forward, and then sinks with a feeling of luxurious slowness into the plush, yielding fibers of the rug. The full weight of the body follows, allowing the feet to submerge themselves completely in the deep, soft pile, a feeling of being gently and securely anchored to the heart of the room. The immediate consequence is a sense of utter quietness in movement. The sound of footsteps is now completely gone, absorbed by the thick, soft fibers. The toes instinctively stretch and curl into the plushness, a silent expression of pure contentment. The body feels more grounded, more stable, and more deeply connected to the profound peace of the space. Now standing in the center of the room on the soft island of the rug, the outside world feels impossibly distant. The gentle light and the deep shadows create a space that feels protected and insulated from all intrusion. The silence of the house is the most prominent feature of the moment, a stillness so deep and complete that it feels like a physical presence, a soft, heavy blanket of quiet. The silence is not an absence of sound, but a positive and powerful force. It has a texture, a weight. It presses gently on the eardrums, seeming to slow the rhythm of the breath and the very beating of the heart. It is a healing balm for a mind that has been overstimulated by the constant noise of the day, a quiet pool in which the soul can be restored. Within this vast and profound silence, the eye catches on a tiny, singular point of light. Across the room, the television is a dark, glossy rectangle, completely inert, except for a single, small red light that glows steadily from its lower edge. It is the only sign of the silent, waiting technology within, a tiny, unwavering star in the deep, soft darkness of the room. A feeling of profound and restorative peace descends. This silence is a rare and precious gift, an incredible luxury in a world that is never quiet. It feels cleansing, as if it is gently washing away the accumulated noise and stress from the mind. It is a moment of perfect and complete solitude, a retreat into the deepest part of the sanctuary. The sensation is akin to being submerged in deep, calm water. The constant pressure and noise of the world above the surface has vanished, and what remains is the quiet internal rhythm of one's own existence, the gentle rise and fall of the chest, the faint, pulsing beat in the ears. It is a moment of profound and intimate connection with the self. A quiet intention is formed to honor this silence, to not break it with the television or music or any other unnecessary distraction. The purpose of this moment is simply to be with the quiet, to listen to its nuances, and to allow its gentle, restorative power to work its slow and profound magic. It is a conscious choice to embrace receptive stillness. The breath, which had been flowing in its natural rhythm, instinctively slows and becomes shallower, a subconscious effort not to disturb the perfect stillness of the air. The head tilts just slightly to one side, an ancient, instinctual posture of deep and focused listening. The body becomes a statue of perfect, relaxed stillness. Every muscle releases, every small, fidgety impulse is quieted. The attention is not passive but active and focused, turned outward like a sensitive instrument, gently straining to perceive the most subtle sound within the profound quiet. And from the deep well of the silence, a tiny sound does emerge. It is the faintest, low-frequency hum, almost more of a subtle vibration felt in the bones than a sound heard by the ears. It is the distant, steady drone of the refrigerator motor from the kitchen, a sound so quiet, it is only perceptible in this state of absolute stillness. This tiny, constant drone becomes an anchor, a mantra in the vast, silent ocean of the house. Against the far wall, a tall, dark bookshelf stands as a silent sentinel. Its shelves are heavy with the weight of countless books, their spines a rich and varied mosaic of colors and textures. It is a private library, a silent congregation of stories and ideas, all waiting patiently in the warm, dim light. The lamp casts its glow across them, highlighting some in gold while leaving others to rest in deep shadow. Drawing closer to the bookshelf, the ambient scent of the room begins to change, becoming more concentrated and specific. The general comforting smell of the house is now layered with the distinct and beloved aroma of old paper, dry ink, and the faint, sweet smell of binding glue. It is a scent that is both scholarly and deeply comforting, the unique perfume of 1,000 waiting stories. The eye settles on the spine of a single, well-worn book. It is bound in a coarse, dark green cloth, and the title, once stamped in bright gold foil, is now faded and soft, its letters barely legible. The corners of the spine are rounded and slightly frayed, a clear and tender sign of a story that has been visited and revisited many times, a treasured and familiar friend. A warm rush of deep affection and nostalgia fills the heart. These are not merely objects made of paper and ink, they are companions, portals to other worlds, silent friends who have offered comfort and escape on countless quiet evenings. To be in their presence is to feel a sense of boundless potential, a quiet excitement for the journeys that wait within their pages. The mind is instantly transported back to the hushed and reverent halls of a childhood library, to the feeling of overwhelming wonder at being surrounded by more stories than one could ever read in a lifetime. This specific, tangible smell of old paper connects directly to that foundational love of reading, to a time when a book was the most magical and precious object imaginable. A quiet promise is made to the self, a promise to return to these silent friends more often, to carve out the time for the slow, deep, and immersive pleasure of reading. It is a gentle and firm resolution to turn away from the fleeting distractions of the digital world and to reconnect with the timeless, tactile magic of the printed page. The hand, which had been resting at the side, begins to lift. The movement is slow and graceful, the arm moving through the warm air with a sense of deliberate purpose. The fingers are soft and slightly curved, not reaching to grasp or take, but simply to make a gentle, exploratory contact. The very tips of the fingers make the softest possible connection with the top edge of the dark green book's spine. With an almost imperceptible pressure, they begin to drift slowly downwards, tracing the length of the binding, feeling the pleasantly rough texture of the cloth and the subtle raised ridges of the faded golden letters. A fine invisible film of dust is disturbed by the touch, a tiny ghost of settled time that now coats the fingertips. The sensation is surprisingly rich and detailed, the coarse weave of the fabric, the relative smoothness of the worn lettering, the hard, sharp edge of the coverboard beneath the cloth. It is a silent and intimate conversation, a greeting conveyed entirely through the language of touch. Here, standing before this wall of stories, the very atmosphere seems to grow thicker, denser with the weight of history, imagination, and quiet contemplation. The soft light of the lamp creates a sacred space around the bookshelf, while the upper shelves, filled with their own silent worlds, recede into a deep and comforting darkness. This corner of the room is the very heart of the sanctuary. The scent is at its most powerful here, a complex and layered perfume built up over years of quiet companionship. The dominant note is the sweet, slightly acidic fragrance of aging paper. Beneath that lies the deeper, resonant scent of the old wood of the shelves themselves, and the faintest, almost undetectable hint of leather from an old, treasured binding. The eye is drawn to a narrow space between two thick volumes, a sliver of perfect and absolute shadow. Within that tiny canyon of darkness, a single, impossibly delicate strand of a spider's web is illuminated by the light. It stretches from one spine to the other, its silk so fine it is almost not there. A tiny, perfect and forgotten piece of architecture built in the silent city of books. A feeling of profound and unwavering comfort rises from the very depths of the soul. This is the scent of safety. This is the scent of peace. This is the scent of quiet nourishment for the mind and the heart. It is an aroma that signals a complete and total retreat from the world, an olfactory key that unlocks the deepest chambers of tranquility. This specific and beloved scent instantly conjures memories of other quiet, book-filled spaces that have offered refuge throughout life. A grandfather's sun-drenched study, the vast and silent reading room of a university library, a cramped and dusty second-hand bookshop discovered by chance on a rainy afternoon. It is a smell that is forever entwined with feelings of discovery, peace, and the pure joy of being utterly lost in a world made of words. A powerful wave of gratitude washes over the spirit. It is a thankfulness for the simple, miraculous existence of books, for the human impulse to tell and record stories, for the quiet and constant companionship they offer. It is a moment of pure, unadulterated appreciation for the tangible and timeless magic of the written word. The body leans forward, a slight and gentle inclination closer to the shelves. The head tilts downward, bringing the face nearer to the rows of silent, waiting spines. The eyes close softly, shutting out all visual distractions in order to focus the entirety of the being on the rich and complex world of scent. A long, slow, and deeply intentional breath is drawn in through the nose. It is a meditative inhalation, a conscious effort to pull the warm, book-scented air deep into the lungs. The purpose is not merely to smell, but to absorb, to internalize this comforting essence, to make the scent of peace a physical part of the self. The rich and complex aroma fills the senses, a comforting perfume that seems to travel directly to the brain, calming the nervous system from the inside out. The chest expands with the warm, fragrant air, and on the long, slow, silent exhale, a final, deep layer of unconscious tension dissolves and drifts away. The body feels heavier, more rooted to the spot, and more deeply, profoundly at home. From the deep and quiet stillness before the wall of books, a new and gentle intention begins to blossom. The gaze, which had been softly resting on the spines of silent stories, now drifts across the room and settles upon a singular destination. It is the armchair, a deep and welcoming shape sitting patiently within its own perfect circle of warm, golden light. It is not merely a piece of furniture, but a haven within the haven, a quiet throne of tranquility whose silent invitation is now the only thing that matters in the world. The very air around the chair seems to have a different quality, a tangible and radiant warmth that emanates from the tall floor lamp standing beside it, like a faithful, silent guardian. This gentle heat can be felt even from this distance, a soft and subtle promise of comfort that beckons the body forward. It is a primal and deeply persuasive call, a quiet echo of ancient firelight that speaks directly to the soul's need for shelter and for peace. The chair itself is upholstered in a thick, heavy fabric of a deep and comforting earth tone, a color that seems to drink the lamplight and glow with a soft, internal warmth. The weave of the material is honest and substantial, a pleasingly rough texture that promises both softness and resilience. Along the very front edge of the seat cushion, a single thick seam is worn smoother and has faded to a slightly paler shade than the rest, a silent and tender testament to countless hours of quiet, contented repose. A powerful and immediate feeling of being drawn toward it takes hold, a sense of gentle and benevolent gravity. It feels less like a choice and more like a natural and inevitable conclusion to the evening's quiet pilgrimage. The chair is not just an option for rest, it is the physical embodiment of rest itself. A profound and simple longing arises from deep within, a pure desire to accept the chair's generous and unspoken offer of a complete and total embrace. This specific armchair is a silent keeper of memories, a vessel holding the quiet echoes of 1,000 peaceful evenings. It has absorbed the stillness of stories read, the soft vibrations of music listened to, the intangible weight of long and wandering thoughts. To sit within its embrace is to join a long and gentle lineage of tranquility, to connect with every other moment of quiet restoration that has ever unfolded within its form. And so, the gentle impulse solidifies into a clear and serene intention. The next movement will not be aimless, but will be a deliberate and mindful journey toward that warm circle of light, toward that deep and waiting comfort. The abstract desire for peace now has a concrete destination. The mind resolves, with a quiet and certain finality, to occupy that sacred space and to finally truly come to rest. The body, which had been standing in a state of still and silent contemplation, begins to respond to this new resolve. It turns, not with a sharp or sudden motion, but with a slow and fluid pivot, a graceful and unhurried rotation from the hips. The bare feet, soft and silent on the thick pile of the rug, shift their position, aligning the body to face its waiting destination. A single deep breath is taken in, and then released in a long, slow sigh of pure anticipation. With the decision made, the first step is taken, followed by another. The movement across the room is not a walk, but a slow and silent glide across the soft, yielding landscape of the rug. Each footfall is completely absorbed by the thick fibers, creating a sense of weightless and reverent progression. The body moves toward the golden light, with the quiet and focused purpose of a pilgrim approaching a long-sought and sacred shrine. As the body draws nearer, the gentle warmth from the lamp intensifies, transforming from a subtle suggestion into a tangible and welcoming caress that envelops the skin. The light itself seems to grow brighter and more intimate, no longer just illuminating the chair from afar, but now revealing every detail of its texture, every nuance of its familiar and beloved form. The armchair now fills the entire field of vision, a world of comfort waiting to be entered. Before the final surrender to the chair's embrace, however, another quiet purpose makes itself known. A desire not just for passive rest, but for a gentle and focused activity. In a quiet, shadowed corner of the room, on the surface of a simple wooden desk, lie the chosen instruments for this ritual. The corner is a darker, more functional space, a place of quiet potential that stands in gentle contrast to the warm, radiant glow of the waiting armchair. The first sensation upon reaching the desk is the deep, cool smoothness of its polished wood surface under the fingertips, a feeling of solidity and quiet purpose. There is the faintest, almost inaudible whisper of paper as a notebook is touched, and a clean, dry scent of ink and old wood rises to meet the senses. These are the subtle sensory cues of a space dedicated to thoughtful and quiet creation. The notebook itself is an object of profound and simple beauty. Its cover is made of a thick, unadorned card of a deep and calming forest green, its surface soft and slightly textured to the touch. Tucked into its spine, a simple ribbon of dark, lustrous silk waits patiently to mark a place. Beside it lies a single, heavy fountain pen, its body crafted from a dark, polished wood, its simple silver clip catching a faint, distant gleam of light. A feeling of serene and quiet purpose blossoms in the chest, a gentle and pleasant anticipation. These are not merely a pen and a notebook. They are ritual objects, sacred tools for a journey inward. To hold them is to hold the potential for clarity, for the gentle untangling of thoughts, for the quiet and deeply satisfying act of giving form to the formless wanderings of the mind. This specific notebook, with its clean and empty pages, evokes the powerful memory of other journals filled with the heartfelt and sometimes chaotic records of a life. It connects to a long and personal history of seeking understanding through the simple, magical act of writing things down. The pen is a familiar and trusted friend. Its comforting weight and perfect balance are known and reliable constant. The gentle intention for the evening now clarifies and deepens. It will not be a time of simple, empty rest, but a time of quiet and restorative reflection. The purpose is to gently capture the peaceful feelings of this moment, to prepare for the future, not with striving or anxiety, but with a calm and centered spirit. The decision is made to honor the quiet impulse to create a small and meaningful record of this tranquility. One hand comes to rest gently on the cool, smooth cover of the notebook, the fingertips tracing its clean and simple edge. The other hand lifts the heavy pen, its familiar weight settling into the palm. The smooth wood a pleasing and solid sensation. The balance is tested with a small, almost imperceptible movement, a silent and instinctive check of the beloved tool. With a slow and deliberate motion, the notebook is lifted from the desk, its gentle weight a pleasing and substantial reality in one hand. The pen is picked up with the other and brought to rest against the notebook's deep green cover. The cool, solid feel of the instrument, a perfect and pleasing complement to the soft texture of the card. The body turns, carrying these objects of quiet intention, ready to resume its journey back toward the light. The weight of the notebook and the pen in the hands is a tangible and comforting reminder of the quiet purpose that has now been set for the evening. It is a feeling of holding pure potential, a sense of gentle and creative power. The sound of the footsteps remains a soft and muffled whisper as the body moves away from the shadowed corner and back toward the waiting golden circle of light. The path to the armchair leads past the wide, dark doorway to the kitchen, and as it is passed, a new and more primal desire gently surfaces. It is the thought of a warm, comforting drink, a fragrant herbal tea to soothe the body and complete the ritual of settling in. The journey is rerouted with a slow and deliberate turn, moving from the soft, carpeted warmth of the living room and into the cool, silent darkness of the adjacent kitchen. The change in atmosphere is immediate and profound. The air in the kitchen is noticeably cooler, and the deep silence here feels different, more functional, less resonant. The soft whisper of bare feet on the thick rug gives way to a faint, almost sticky sound as they meet the smooth, cool surface of the linoleum floor. A faint, clean scent of dried herbs and distant spices hangs gently in the still, dark air. Through the deep and encompassing darkness, a single large window allows a wash of soft, silvery moonlight to spill across the floor, illuminating the clean, hard lines of the countertops. The moonlight catches on the graceful, curving neck of the faucet, turning it into a beautiful sculpture of liquid silver. Resting beside it, the familiar rounded shape of an electric kettle is a dark and humble silhouette against the faint and ethereal glow from the night sky. A feeling of entering a space that is both functional and deeply at rest pervades the senses. The kitchen, a place of bustling activity and conversation during the day, is now asleep, its tools and appliances waiting in a state of quiet and patient repose. The simple desire for a warm cup of tea feels pure and deeply comforting, a primal need for an internal warmth to match the profound external peace. The simple domestic act of preparing tea is a ritual as old as time, a form of gentle self-care that is both humble and profound. It is associated with countless other moments of quiet soothing, a warm remedy for a winter cold, a liquid comfort on a difficult day, a silent and fragrant companion during a long night of deep thought. To make tea is to perform a small personal ceremony of healing. A quiet decision is made to perform this small and simple task not as a chore but as a meditation. Each step of the process will be given full and undivided attention, from the filling of the kettle to the pouring of the water. The intention is not simply to have a drink, but to honor the ritual, to find a deep and simple satisfaction in the deliberate and gentle preparation of this comforting beverage. A hand reaches out into the familiar darkness, and with a practiced and certain movement, flips a small switch located beneath one of the overhead cabinets. A single soft bar of light blossoms into existence, casting a focused and gentle glow upon a small section of the counter. The kettle is then lifted, its light weight a hollow and empty promise, and carried the short distance to the sink. The sound of cool, clean water rushing from the tap and into the hollow body of the kettle is a sudden and wonderfully welcome break in the profound silence of the house. It is a clean, rushing, living sound that speaks of purity and refreshment. The water is turned off, the lid of the kettle is clicked securely into place, and it is set upon its base. A switch is flicked, and a tiny light on the kettle's side illuminates, signaling that the quiet, magical process of heating has begun. As the water begins to heat, the very first wisps of steam curl from the kettle's spout, catching the under-cabinet light and turning into a swirling, ethereal dance of vapor. The faint, low hum of the heating element is a soft and gentle mantra, a sound of quiet and efficient transformation. A small canister is opened, and the rich, sweet, and floral scent of dried chamomile flowers rises to fill the cool kitchen air, with a profound and beautiful promise of deep and gentle calm. The journey back to the living room begins, a slow and careful procession from the cool, functional space of the kitchen into the warm, soft embrace of the waiting sanctuary. The focus of the entire world now narrows to the object being carried with both hands. A single, simple ceramic cup filled with fragrant, steaming water, a vessel of pure and uncomplicated comfort. The most immediate and powerful sensation is the deep and penetrating warmth that radiates from the porcelain, seeping through the palms and into the very bones of the hands. It is a living, breathing heat, a comforting and profoundly gentle presence. The fragrant steam rises in a constant, gentle plume, carrying the sweet apple-like scent of the chamomile directly to the senses, a soothing and calming perfume that precedes every step. The cup itself is a study in simple and unassuming beauty. It is a pale, creamy white, the porcelain thick and solid. A tiny, almost invisible crack in the glaze near the rim catches the light, a small, perfect imperfection that speaks of its long and beloved history of service. The steam, catching the warm light of the living room, becomes a column of swirling gold, a magical and momentary pillar of light and scent. A feeling of profound and simple contentment settles deep within the soul. This warm cup feels like a small and precious treasure, a simple luxury that represents the very essence of self-nurturing. To hold it is to hold a small, portable hearth, a personal and intimate source of warmth and comfort, a liquid shield against any and all of the world's lingering chill. The act of carrying this cup of heat connects to a primal and ancient human instinct. It is the feeling of bringing the fire back to the cave, of protecting a precious source of life and warmth from the wind and the rain. It evokes a deep and resonant feeling of safety, of providing for one's own most fundamental needs for comfort and care. It is a small but powerful act of deep and unconditional self-compassion. The sole intention of this moment is to move with a slow and mindful grace, to transport this small vessel of peace safely to its final destination. Every step is taken with a deliberate and focused care, the mind and body working in perfect and silent harmony to protect the precious hot liquid held within. The journey is not one of distance, but of reverence. The hands adjust their grip, not tightly but with a firm and gentle cradling motion, allowing the palms to absorb as much of the comforting warmth as possible. The eyes are not focused on the cup itself, but on the path ahead, on the familiar and soft landscape of the rug, ensuring that each footfall is placed with perfect and unwavering stability. The walk back across the living room is a slow, reverent and silent procession. The body is held in a state of relaxed and stable balance, a moving statue whose sole and sacred purpose is to protect and transport its warm and fragrant offering. The arrival back at the golden circle of light feels like the successful and triumphant completion of a deeply important mission. The consequence of this careful journey is the safe arrival of the warmth. The fragrant steam from the cup rises to meet the face, a gentle and humid mist that feels like a soft caress on the skin. The comforting heat against the palms has been a constant and reassuring companion, and the sight of the waiting armchair, now just a single step away, brings with it a feeling of peaceful and victorious homecoming. Beside the armchair, a small round table waits, its dark wooden surface cleared and ready for its purpose. It exists entirely within the warm pool of lamplight, a small and perfect stage for the final arrangement of the evening's tools of comfort and reflection. It is an altar to the quiet moment, its empty surface a silent invitation to create a space of serene and focused intention. The sounds of the arrangement are a quiet and delicate percussion, a series of soft and meaningful notes in the deep silence. First, the gentle, solid clink of the ceramic cup as its base makes contact with the cool wood of the table. This is followed by the soft, muffled thud of the notebook as it is placed carefully beside the cup. Finally, the faintest, almost inaudible click as the wooden pen is laid reverently alongside the notebook. The small table now holds a perfect still life, a composition of profound and simple beauty. The steam still rises in a graceful, swirling line from the pale white cup. The notebook's deep green cover is a block of calm and solid color, a promise of quiet contemplation. The dark wood of the pen lies perfectly parallel to the notebook's spine, its simple silver clip capturing a single bright highlight from the lamp above. A deep and satisfying sense of order and rightness settles in the mind. Everything is now in its proper and perfect place. The external environment has been deliberately and lovingly arranged to support the internal intention of quiet reflection. This small act of organization brings with it a feeling of profound peace, a sense of having created a small and perfect world of calm. This simple act of arranging objects for a task is a timeless and sacred human ritual. It is the quiet preparation of an artist's palette before a painting, the deliberate ordering of a monk's meditation cushion and bell, the careful layout of a craftsman's tools before beginning a work of love. It is a way of signaling to the mind that a special and focused time is about to begin. The final preparation is now complete, and the only intention that remains is to honor this carefully created space. The tools are ready. The warm drink is waiting. All that is left is to accept the final, profound invitation to surrender to the deep comfort of the chair and to begin the gentle and restorative work that has been so meticulously and lovingly prepared for. Before the final act of sitting, the hands hover for a brief moment over the newly arranged objects. The fingertips make a tiny, final adjustment to the position of the pen, shifting it a mere fraction of an inch to make it perfectly parallel with the edge of the notebook. It is a final, unnecessary and deeply satisfying gesture of creating perfect and harmonious order. The body turns toward the waiting embrace of the armchair. The cup is placed down first, with a slow and steady hand near the far edge of the table. The notebook is laid beside it, its green cover facing up. Finally, the pen is set down beside the notebook, its tip pointing toward the chair, ready and waiting. Each movement is slow, final, and full of a quiet, deliberate grace. The small table is now a complete and perfect tableau of the evening's quiet potential. The series of small, soft sounds, the clink of the ceramic, the thud of the paper, the click of the wood, have faded into the deep silence of the room, their echoes confirming the absolute completion of the preparatory ritual. The space is not just ready, it is consecrated. And now, the final destination. The armchair, viewed from this intimate proximity, is an irresistible landscape of comfort. Its deep cushions seem to sigh with a silent and generous invitation, their soft, yielding surfaces promising a complete and total embrace. The worn, woven fabric looks impossibly soft and welcoming under the warm, direct glow of the lamp. It is the very center of the sanctuary, the final and most perfect expression of home. The first sound of this final act is a soft and satisfying whoosh of air escaping from the deep cushions as the body begins to lower itself into the chair. This is followed by the immediate and wonderful sensation of being gently and completely enveloped, the soft but firm support of the chair rising to meet and hold the body on all sides. The slightly rough, warm texture of the fabric is a comforting and familiar feeling against the skin. From this new and much lower perspective, the room is transformed. The tall lamp is now a warm and gentle sun, its light a golden canopy overhead. The small table with its carefully arranged objects is a perfect and accessible island of purpose. The rest of the room, with its tall bookshelves and deep shadows, recedes into a soft and distant periphery, a quiet and protective border around this central world of comfort. A feeling of complete and unconditional surrender washes over the body and the spirit. This is the moment. The long journey of the evening is finally and completely over. A profound and overwhelming sense of having arrived in the exact right place at the exact right time settles into the very marrow of the bones. It is a feeling of pure, unadulterated, and deeply earned comfort. This simple, universal act of sinking into a favorite chair at the end of a long day is a powerful physical metaphor for the act of letting go. It is the feeling of the weary traveler finally setting down a heavy pack, of the tired worker finally unlacing their boots. It is the body's ultimate and most profound expression of release, a complete and total abdication of the need to strive, to stand, to hold oneself up. The final, quiet intention is simply to be still, to be silent, to be held and supported by the deep and generous comfort of this chair. To allow the quiet and gentle work of reflection, which has been so carefully and lovingly prepared for, to begin in its own time and at its own gentle and unhurried pace. There is nothing else in the world to do. The body, now held in the chair's deep and loving embrace, makes a series of tiny, final, unconscious adjustments. A slight shifting of the hips to settle more deeply into the cushion, a gentle rolling of the shoulders to allow them to rest more fully against the back of the chair. It is the body's own quiet and instinctive search for the perfect point of equilibrium and absolute ease. With all adjustments made, the head, which had been held upright through a long day, finally allows itself to lean back. It comes to rest against the high, soft back of the chair, the final point of contact, the last piece of the body to surrender its weight. The neck muscles, which had been holding a subtle and unnoticed tension, now release their grip completely. A long, slow, and completely involuntary sigh of pure and profound contentment escapes from the lips. It is a sound that comes from the very depths of the being, a warm and gentle rush of air that carries with it the last invisible, lingering remnant of the day's tension. The world falls away completely, and there is only this, the feeling of being perfectly, deeply, and completely at rest. Settled deep within the chair's embrace, the world has contracted to a small, warm, and perfect circle of light. Within this circle, the small table holds its offerings. The focus of attention is drawn to the simple, pale white cup, its form solid and comforting. The steam still rises from its surface, a silent and continuous exhalation, carrying the gentle and calming scent of chamomile into the still air of the room. It is a vessel of pure and simple warmth, a liquid heart for this quiet moment. The most powerful sensory presence is the warmth itself. It is not just a temperature, but a living, radiant energy that can be felt on the skin of the face and hands, even from a short distance. This warmth is married to the sweet, apple-like fragrance of the herbal infusion, a scent that seems to physically soften the air, calming the mind and soothing the spirit with every gentle, passive inhalation. It is the olfactory equivalent of a soft, warm blanket. The surface of the tea is a perfect, still mirror of dark, liquid gold. In its depths, a distorted, shimmering reflection of the lampshade above can be seen, a small, bright world contained within the circle of the cup. A single tiny, dust-mote-sized chamomile petal floats on the surface, a miniature and perfect vessel sailing on a warm and fragrant sea. The light from the lamp penetrates the liquid, giving it a translucent, amber glow that is incredibly deep and inviting. A profound and simple feeling of comfort blossoms in the chest. It is a feeling of being cared for, of having provided for oneself this small and perfect luxury. The warmth from the cup is a promise of an even deeper, more internal warmth to come. This moment, before the first sip, is one of pure and uncomplicated anticipation, a gentle and pleasant ache of a simple desire about to be fulfilled. This small hot cup holds within it the echo of every other warm drink that has ever offered solace. It brings to mind the memory of a grandmother's kitchen on a cold winter morning, the steam from her cup fogging the window panes. It recalls the feeling of wrapping cold hands around a mug of hot chocolate after playing in the snow. It is a direct and powerful connection to a deep and universal lineage of warmth and care. And so, a quiet intention forms, simple and pure. The intention is to savor this first sip as if it were the most important event in the universe. To not drink it absently, but to be fully and completely present for the journey of the warmth from the cup, to the lips, to the body. It is a decision to honor this simple act of self-nurturing with a total and undivided attention. The hands, which had been resting softly on the lap, begin their slow and deliberate journey. They lift, moving through the warm air with a graceful and unhurried motion, and come to rest on either side of the cup. The fingers do not grasp, but rather gently and reverently cradle the warm porcelain, conforming to its smooth, round shape. With the cup now held securely, the hands lift it from the table. The movement is slow and perfectly steady, a small and graceful act of levitation. The cup is brought towards the face, and as it nears, the head tilts forward slightly to meet it. The rim, warm and smooth, makes the softest possible contact with the lips, and the liquid is drawn in with a slow, silent, and deeply satisfying inhalation. The immediate consequence is an explosion of gentle, soothing warmth. It spreads across the tongue, down the throat and into the chest, a blossoming flower of heat that radiates outward from the core. The taste is subtle and sweet, the pure essence of the chamomile flower, a flavor that is itself a form of liquid peace. The body, from the inside out, begins to feel profoundly and deeply comforted. The ritual continues as the cup is returned to its place within the small illuminated world of the side table. The space it occupied is now empty for only a moment before being filled again. The scene remains one of profound and gentle stillness, the only movement being the slow and careful actions of this quiet ceremony. The deep silence of the house rushes back in to fill the space, left by the small, almost inaudible sounds of the previous action. The lingering warmth from the porcelain remains on the palms and fingertips, a gentle and pleasant ghost of the heat that was held. The sweet floral taste of the chamomile still coats the tongue, a subtle and comforting afterglow. The air itself seems just a little bit warmer, a little more fragrant, the steam from the now resting cup continuing its gentle work of perfuming the quiet atmosphere. The steam itself is a thing of mesmerizing beauty. It rises from the surface of the hot liquid, not in a straight line but in a slow and impossibly graceful dance. In the warm, still air, it twists and curls, forming intricate and momentary sculptures of vapor that catch the golden lamplight, shine with a brief and ethereal brilliance, and then dissolve into nothingness. It is a constant, silent, and beautiful ballet of impermanence. A feeling of deep and quiet satisfaction settles in the spirit. The first act of this small and personal ceremony is now complete. The body has been offered a gift of warmth, and it has been gratefully received. This simple, successful act of care creates a feeling of profound rightness, a sense of being perfectly in tune with the gentle and unhurried rhythm of the evening. This simple cyclical action of lifting and setting down feels like a microcosm of a larger, more peaceful way of being. It speaks to a rhythm of gentle effort followed by quiet repose, of engagement followed by release. It is a physical manifestation of a balanced and tranquil life, a small and repeatable dance that mirrors the slow and steady breathing of a body completely at rest. A quiet resolve forms in the mind to carry this same deliberate and mindful grace into the next action, to not rush or fumble, but to allow each movement to be as slow, as certain, and as full of quiet reverence as the one that has just been completed. The intention is to make the entire evening a seamless and unbroken meditation in gentle motion. The hands, which had been hovering in the air for a moment after releasing the cup, now begin their slow and graceful descent. They travel through the warm air and come to rest once more on the lap, the gesture calm and final. The eyes focus on the spot on the table where the cup now rests, a silent acknowledgement of the completed act. With meticulous and unhurried care, the cup is lowered back toward the surface of the table. The movement is smooth and perfectly controlled, the arm acting as a slow and gentle crane. The final inch of the descent is traversed with an almost imperceptible slowness, the body ensuring that the final contact will be soft and silent. The resulting sound is a soft, deep and hollow clink as the ceramic base of the cup makes contact with the dark wood of the table. It is a sound that is both gentle and definitive, a note of quiet finality that resonates for a moment in the deep silence. The hands feel the subtle vibration of the contact and then the complete release of the cup's weight. The beautiful, silent dance of the steam continues, uninterrupted. The focus of attention now shifts from the warm cup to the cool, quiet object lying beside it. It is the notebook, a dark green rectangle of pure and silent potential. In the soft, warm light of the lamp, the deep color of its cover takes on a rich, velvety appearance, and its clean, sharp edges seem to define a space of purpose and possibility. It waits, impassive and patient, for the next stage of the ritual to begin. The silence of the room is so profound that one can almost hear the imagined sound of the cover opening, a soft and fibrous whisper. The subtle dry scent of clean paper and cardstock seems to rise from the object even before it is touched, a clean and scholarly perfume that speaks of quiet contemplation. The slight but satisfying weight of it is anticipated in the hand, a feeling of holding something substantial and full of promise. The eye is drawn to the blank page that waits within. It is not yet visible, but its presence is powerfully felt. It is a perfect, immaculate, and creamy white expanse, a pristine and untouched landscape of pure possibility. The faint, almost invisible lines that guide without commanding are imagined, a subtle and gentle structure waiting to receive the formless flow of thought. It is a silent and beautiful invitation. A quiet and gentle thrill, a feeling of serene excitement mixed with profound peace arises in the heart. This is not the anxious, demanding blankness of a page that must be filled for work, but the calm and welcoming blankness of a page that exists only to receive. It is the joy of a clean slate, a space free from judgment, expectation, or demand. This pristine, untouched surface evokes the powerful and beautiful image of a field of freshly fallen snow on a quiet and windless winter morning. The world is hushed, clean, and new, a perfect and unmarked canvas waiting for the very first footprint. There is a feeling of reverence for its perfection and a gentle excitement for the small and personal mark that is about to be made upon it. The intention that forms is not to fill the page with grand ideas or eloquent prose, but simply to make a small honest mark, to honor the profound silence of the room with a single quiet word. The purpose is not to create a masterpiece, but to create a connection, a bridge between the inner world of feeling and the outer world of form. One hand, which had been resting on the lap, lifts and moves slowly toward the table, its purpose clear and defined. The other hand comes to rest on the arm of the chair, a small and steadying gesture. The fingers of the reaching hand, soft and slightly curved, prepare to make contact with the notebook's cool, smooth cover. The hand moves with a slow and certain grace. The fingertips touch the cover, and the notebook is lifted from the table. It is brought to the lap where it comes to rest with a soft and muffled sound. The thumb of one hand finds the clean, sharp edge of the cover and, with a smooth and steady motion, lifts it, opening the book and revealing the first perfect blank page with a soft and satisfying whisper of paper. The immediate consequence is a new and beautiful visual contrast. The bright, clean whiteness of the open page is a startling and lovely rectangle against the dark, soft fabric of the trousers. The feeling of the notebook's gentle and substantial weight is now settled on the lap, a comforting and solid presence. The faint, clean scent of the paper is now closer, more intimate, a quiet and personal perfume. The open notebook waits, a pristine and silent stage. The focus now shifts to the final instrument resting on the small table. It is the fountain pen, a sleek and beautiful tool lying in a state of perfect and patient repose. Its dark, polished wooden body seems to absorb the lamplight, while its single, simple silver clip captures the glow and becomes a singular point of bright, clean light. The absolute silence of the room makes this next small, impending action feel deeply significant. The imagined sensation of the pen's weight and the coolness of its polished surface is a vivid and pleasant anticipation in the mind. The pen is not just an object, it is the final and necessary key, the bridge that will connect the world of thought to the world of the page. The pen itself is a small marvel of craftsmanship. The deep, dark grain of the polished wood swirls in intricate and beautiful patterns, unique and unrepeatable. The simple, elegant line of the silver clip is a perfect and cool counterpoint to the organic warmth of the wood. The dark, mysterious point of the cap, where the nib is hidden, holds a silent and powerful promise of creation. A feeling of profound readiness and quiet purpose fills the spirit. This is the final and most important tool of the ritual. To hold it will be to complete the circuit, to establish the final and most intimate connection between the internal world of feeling and the external world of tangible expression. It is a feeling of holding not just a pen, but a magic wand. The simple and deliberate act of picking up a pen is reminiscent of a conductor lifting a baton just before the first note of a symphony is played. It is a small, quiet, and deeply significant gesture that signals the beginning of the real work, the true magic. It is a moment of gathering energy, of focusing intention, of preparing to bring something new and beautiful into the world. A quiet decision is made to hold this pen not as a tool of labor or of effort, but as a key to gently unlock the quietest rooms of the mind, to allow the thoughts and feelings that reside there to flow out in a gentle and visible stream. It is a commitment to the act of writing as a form of gentle and restorative self-discovery. The hand which had been resting on the open notebook now lifts from the lap and begins its slow and deliberate journey back toward the table. The fingers are poised, soft and ready, their movement through the warm air both graceful and full of a quiet, certain purpose. They move toward the pen as if drawn by a gentle and invisible force. The fingertips make contact with the cool, smooth wood of the pen's body. They close around it, and it is lifted from the table. The other hand comes up to meet it. One hand holds the body of the pen, the other gently grasps the cap, and with a slow, smooth, and deeply satisfying twisting motion, the cap is unscrewed from the body. The sound is a soft, satisfying, and almost inaudible rasp as the fine metal threads disengage from one another. This is followed by the silent and wonderful revealing of the gleaming golden nib. The feeling of the uncapped pen in the writing hand is immediately different. It is lighter, more perfectly balanced, poised and ready for its sacred and beautiful work. The scene is now a tight and intimate focus, a miniature world of profound and quiet significance. the vast, creamy white expanse of the page, the dark, gleaming point of the golden nib held just a fraction of an inch above its surface. The warm, direct light from the lamp catches the very tip of the nib, turning it into a single, sharp point of liquid fire. The profound and absolute silence of the house seems to gather and condense in this tiny, empty space, this microscopic gap between the tip of the nib and the fibers of the paper. It feels as if the entire universe is holding its breath, waiting for this single, small and monumental act of connection. The air itself feels charged with a gentle and beautiful potential. The nib itself, seen from this close proximity, is a thing of exquisite and delicate beauty. A fine and intricate design is engraved upon its golden surface, and a tiny, almost invisible slit runs down its center, the delicate and crucial channel that holds the ink. The very tip is a perfect rounded point of hard iridium, a tiny jewel designed for a lifetime of smooth and silent gliding. A feeling of being on a precipice fills the heart. It is not a precipice of danger, but a precipice of pure and gentle creation. It is a perfect, suspended, and almost timeless moment that exists between the ethereal world of thought and the tangible world of expression. It is a moment of pure, unadulterated, and beautiful potential. This feeling is akin to the moment a diver is poised at the very end of the board, the world silent and still, just before they break the surface of the calm, deep water below. It is a moment of perfect, focused stillness, a gathering of energy and intention before a single graceful and transformative act. A quiet and gentle question forms in the mind, not in words, but as a pure feeling. What gentle word belongs in this beautiful silence? There is no pressure to find the perfect word, no anxiety to perform, only the calm and loving intention to find a single, true word to anchor this moment of peace. The grip on the pen adjusts by a fraction of an inch, a tiny and unconscious movement, to find the perfect and most comfortable angle for writing. The supporting hand resting on the notebook gently and almost imperceptibly flattens the page. A slow, steadying breath is taken in and then held for a single, silent beat. The hand, which had been suspended in the warm air, now begins an almost imperceptibly slow descent. The tiny distance that separates the nib from the paper is closed with an infinite and loving care, with a deliberate and reverent slowness that honors the profound significance of this small and simple act. The moment of contact is a sensation that is felt more than it is seen or heard. It is a tiny, almost metaphysical connection, a silent and gentle meeting of two worlds. The bright, fiery reflection on the tip of the nib is instantly extinguished as it meets the paper, and at that exact point of union, a tiny, dark, and perfect dot of ink immediately blossoms into existence. The point of contact is now the absolute and undeniable center of the universe. The warm golden nib rests against the creamy white paper. The dark, wet ink begins its slow and magical journey, a quiet and miraculous birth of form from the formless. The lamplight seems to intensify, focusing all of its gentle and benevolent energy on this tiny, monumental act of creation. The only sound in the entire world is a faint, wet, and fibrous whisper. It is the almost inaudible scratching sound of the hard, smooth metal nib gliding across the textured surface of the paper's fibers. It is not a harsh or unpleasant sound, but a soft, intimate, and deeply satisfying one, the unique and beautiful sound of a thought being born into the world. The ink itself is a marvel to behold. As it flows from the tip of the nib, it is a line of pure, glossy, liquid blackness. In the wake of the moving nib, the ink begins its slow transformation, losing its wet shine as it soaks into the thirsty fibers of the paper, settling into a soft, permanent, and matte darkness. A feeling of profound and quiet satisfaction, a gentle and deep release, flows through the body. The potential has been actualized. The silence has not been broken or violated, but has instead been given a quiet and beautiful voice. The long and gentle ritual of preparation has reached its perfect and meaningful culmination. This first, deliberate mark upon the clean page is like the first footprint left in a fresh and untouched field of snow. It is a single, personal, and definitive mark that transforms the landscape from a blank and abstract potential into a personal and unfolding story. It is a mark of being, a quiet and beautiful declaration. I was here. A powerful and gentle wave of gratitude washes over the spirit. It is a thankfulness for the simple, miraculous process of writing. A gratitude for hands that can hold a pen, for ink that can flow, for paper that can receive, and for a mind that can have a quiet and gentle thought that is worth the beautiful and simple effort of recording. The first letter of the first word is now complete. The pen pauses for a fraction of a second, the nib still resting on the page, the connection still live. It is a moment of gathering the gentle and creative impulse for the next movement, a tiny and silent breath in the middle of a beautiful and unfolding sentence. The hand begins to move again, gliding smoothly and confidently across the page. It forms the gentle loops, the soft curves, and the straight, clean lines of the subsequent letters, each one flowing seamlessly and gracefully from the last. It is a slow and beautiful dance of creation, a visible and silent music. A word now exists where only blankness and potential existed before. It sits on the page, a tangible, visible, and permanent form of a fleeting, internal thought. The faint and unique scent of the wet ink is now faintly perceptible in the warm, still air, a dry mineral smell that is the beautiful and unmistakable perfume of creation. The act of writing is complete, but the contemplation has just begun. The pen rests, and the eyes, which had been guiding its journey, now soften their focus, looking not through the words, but at them. The entire universe shrinks to the dimensions of this single creamy page, bathed in the warm, direct, and deeply benevolent light of the lamp. The ink, now dry, has settled into the fibers of the paper, a permanent and beautiful stain, a quiet and personal constellation of marks against a bright and peaceful sky. The hand that holds the pen still feels the faint, residual vibration of its journey across the page, a subtle and pleasant hum of creation. But more than that, there is the gentle, radiant warmth from the lamp above, a soft and constant pressure of light that seems to seep into the skin on the back of the hand. It feels like a quiet and wordless blessing bestowed upon the simple, humble act that has just taken place. The gaze drifts in for a closer look, a microscopic exploration of this new landscape. It settles on a single, gracefully formed letter, an elegant and curving capital at the beginning of a sentence. It is here that the magic of the ink is most apparent. The edges of the dark line are not perfectly sharp, but have a soft, almost imperceptible feathering, where the liquid has been drawn into the porous channels of the paper fibers. The line itself is not uniform, but subtly varies in thickness where the nib pressed a little harder, or turned at a slightly different angle, a perfect and unrepeatable record of a moment of human pressure. A wave of quiet and simple satisfaction washes over the spirit, a feeling as gentle and as warm as the light itself. It is a humble pride, not in the genius of the words themselves, but in the simple, tangible beauty of their form. This is a small act of creation, a tiny and personal mark made upon the world, and in this quiet moment it feels as deeply significant and as beautiful as the creation of a star. This profound appreciation for the handwritten word connects to a deep and ancient past. It is a feeling that links this quiet and solitary act to the work of medieval monks, illuminating manuscripts in cold stone scriptoriums, to poets scratching out verses by candlelight, to lovers penning letters that would take weeks to cross the sea. To write by hand is to participate in a timeless and sacred human conversation, to leave a direct and physical trace of one's own fleeting presence. A quiet and firm resolution settles in the mind, to cherish this simple, imperfect, and deeply human act. In a world of sterile, uniform, and ephemeral digital text, there is a profound and revolutionary beauty in the simple, messy, and permanent reality of ink on paper. It is a decision to honor the unique and beautiful signature of the self, to find a deep and abiding joy in the simple and miraculous act of making a mark. The hand holding the pen, which had been poised for the next word, now relaxes its grip slightly. It lifts the nib from the page, a slow and deliberate disengagement, and comes to rest gently on the opposite side of the notebook. The head, which had been bent in concentration, now tilts to a slightly different angle, a subtle shift in posture to better appreciate the visual beauty of the work that has been done. With the pen now still, the eyes are free to roam. They begin a slow and loving journey across the few lines that now exist on the page. They do not read the words for their meaning, but rather look at them as pure form, as a collection of beautiful and intricate shapes. The gaze follows the long, graceful ascender of one letter, the full, round belly of another, the sharp, clean cross of a third. It is a slow and meditative visual caress. The world seems to shrink even further, becoming nothing more than this small and beautiful landscape of dark marks on a pale field. The texture of the paper seems to become more pronounced, the color of the ink deeper and more resonant. A new and profound visual appreciation dawns, a quiet and simple joy found not in the grand vistas of the world, but in the tiny, perfect and personal geography of a single handwritten line. With the visual sense completely saturated with this quiet beauty, a new layer of awareness begins to emerge. The act of looking gives way to the act of listening. The deep enveloping silence of the room, which had been a constant and gentle backdrop, now moves to the absolute forefront of consciousness. The soft, warm shadows in the corners of the room seem to have a sound-absorbing quality, making the stillness feel even more profound and complete. The first and most immediate non-auditory sensation is the feeling of the body's own quiet presence within this stillness. It is the gentle, rhythmic, and almost imperceptible rise and fall of the chest with each breath, a slow and steady internal tide that is the physical engine of life. It is a feeling of being a single, quiet and living instrument in a vast and silent orchestra. The eye, now lifted from the page, catches a new detail in the periphery. It is the slow, almost imperceptible dance of the steam still rising from the teacup on the table. It is a visual representation of the room's deep quiet, a silent and graceful movement in a world that is otherwise perfectly still. Its slow and constant unfurling seems to be a perfect visual match for the slow and constant rhythm of the breath. A sudden and profound awareness of the body's own quiet aliveness blossoms within the stillness. It is a startling and beautiful realization that even in this state of perfect and complete external quiet, there is an internal world of constant and gentle sound. The body is never truly silent. It is always humming with the soft and beautiful music of its own existence. This focused listening brings to mind the profound rarity of this experience. In the clamor and rush of the day, there is never a moment to simply listen to the sound of one's own life, this constant and faithful rhythm that is always present, but almost always ignored. It is the body's own quiet and personal mantra, the most intimate and constant companion, the soft and steady drumbeat that underlies every other sound in the world. A new and even deeper intention forms in the mind. It is an intention to listen more deeply, to find the silence not just in the room but within the self, by focusing entirely on this gentle and internal sound. It is a decision to turn the attention inward and to discover the profound and restorative peace that can be found in the simple and miraculous act of breathing. The eyes, which had been softly gazing at the steam, now close with a slow and gentle finality. The posture, already relaxed, softens even further into the deep and welcoming embrace of the chair. The hands, one holding the pen and the other resting on the page, remain perfectly unmoving, becoming still and silent anchors. With all other senses now muted, the full and undivided attention of the mind is deliberately turned inward. It focuses with a soft and gentle precision entirely on the sound of the breath. It listens to the soft, cool rush of the inhalation as the air is drawn in through the nose, and the even softer, warmer sigh of the exhalation as it is released. The external world, with its lamps and its books and its shadows, completely fades away. The sound of the breath becomes the entire universe. It is a gentle, rhythmic and constant wave, a soft and eternal ocean of sound that washes over the mind, cleansing it of all thought, all worry, all distraction. A new and even deeper level of calm is achieved, a peace that is not just around the body, but within it. From this deep and internal quiet, the awareness begins to expand outward once more, this time into the world of touch. The focus shifts to the physical connection between the body and the chair that holds it. The lamplight, even through closed eyelids, creates a warm, reddish glow. And in this gentle light, the attention is drawn to the hand that is not holding the pen, the one that rests forgotten on the arm of the chair. The most powerful sensation is the subtle but distinct pressure of the body's weight sinking into the soft, deep cushions. It is a feeling of being completely and unconditionally held, of being supported and cradled in a firm but gentle embrace. There is a profound feeling of safety and security in this simple physical contact. The closed eyes can still perfectly picture the fabric upon which the hand rests. It is the thick, interwoven threads of the upholstery, a pleasingly rough and honest texture. The light would be highlighting the peaks of the weave, creating tiny, sharp points of brightness, while the valleys would be filled with deep and soft micro-shadows, a miniature and beautiful mountain range of thread. An immediate and powerful feeling of being grounded and secure floods the body. It is a sense of being physically and psychically anchored in a place of absolute comfort and safety. The solid and reliable presence of the chair beneath the body is a powerful and unspoken reassurance that all is well, that in this small and quiet corner of the world, there is nothing to fear. The familiar and comforting texture of the fabric under the hand is like the hand of a dear and trusted old friend. It brings to mind the beautiful idea of home, not as a place, but as a tactile sensation, a collection of reliable and comforting surfaces that are known not by sight, but by touch. It is the cool smoothness of a wooden table, the soft pile of a rug, and the honest, rough warmth of this particular chair. A deep and silent wave of gratitude arises for this simple, inanimate object. A thankfulness for its constant and unwavering physical support, for its silent and steadfast companionship through countless quiet evenings. A quiet decision is made to be fully and completely present with this simple and profound tactile sensation, to honor its simple gift of comfort with a full and undivided attention. The hand that is not holding the pen, which had been resting passively and forgotten on the armrest, now begins to awaken. The fingers, which had been softly curled, now uncurl and extend, a slow and deliberate movement like a flower opening. They are no longer a passive weight, but have become an active and sensitive instrument of exploration. With a slow and mindful grace, the fingertips begin to move across the surface of the fabric. They do not rush or scrub, but glide with an almost imperceptible slowness, deliberately exploring the rich and detailed topography of the armrest. They trace the long, straight lines of the weave, feel the pleasant roughness of the individual threads, and discover the subtle softness of the spots that have been worn smooth by years of use. A rich and wonderfully detailed map of texture is transmitted through the fingertips and into the mind. The warmth from the hand begins to transfer to the fabric, and the fabric's own cool and neutral temperature is felt in return, a subtle and deeply pleasant exchange of energy. It is a silent, intimate, and deeply grounding conversation held entirely in the language of touch. The senses continue their slow and deliberate rotation, and the awareness now shifts from the tactile to the olfactory, to the invisible and powerful world of scent. The air in the room, held in a state of perfect and undisturbed stillness by the lack of movement, has allowed the different aromas to settle into distinct but harmonious layers, a rich and complex perfume waiting to be explored. The physical sensation that precedes the act of smelling is the feeling of the air itself as it enters the nostrils. There is a slight and pleasant coolness to it, a clean and neutral feeling that is the blank canvas upon which the scents will be painted. This is followed by the feeling of the lungs expanding and the subsequent warmth as the air is held for a moment within the body. The gaze from behind closed eyelids still holds the image of the teacup, from which the most dominant and beautiful scent arises, its pale and gentle steam a visible and constant manifestation of its fragrant soul. The mind's eye then shifts to the open notebook on the lap, the known source of the dry and scholarly smell of paper and the sharp mineral tang of the fresh ink. A feeling of being gently and completely immersed in a complex and comforting scentscape fills the awareness. It is a sense of richness and profound depth in the very atmosphere of the room. It is a beautiful and reassuring feeling, a sense of being surrounded not just by silence and warmth, but by a complex and benevolent olfactory presence. The mind drifts to the beautiful and mysterious power of scent, how it is so deeply and inextricably tied to memory and emotion. Each of the individual smells that hangs in this quiet air is like a secret key, a key that can unlock a different room in the vast and quiet mansion of the past, or a different and specific feeling state in the landscape of the heart. A quiet and gentle decision is made to consciously appreciate and identify the different and distinct layers of scent that fill the room. It is an intention to engage with this invisible and powerful world, not as a passive recipient, but as an active and curious explorer, to use the sense of smell as a powerful and beautiful tool for a deeper form of meditation. The head, which had been resting comfortably against the back of the chair, now lifts and tilts back just a fraction of an inch further. The eyes remain softly closed, a deliberate act to eliminate all visual distraction and to enhance the power and precision of the sense of smell. The body becomes a still and receptive vessel, waiting to be filled. A long, slow, and deeply intentional breath is drawn in through the nose. It is not a simple breath for oxygen, but an active and conscious tasting of the air, a deliberate effort to separate and identify each of the beautiful components of the room's unique and personal perfume. The different and distinct notes become wonderfully and beautifully clear. First and most prominently, there is the sweet, floral and slightly fruity scent of the chamomile tea. Beneath that, a drier and more subtle note, the clean and almost dusty scent of old paper from the notebook. And finally, almost hidden beneath the other two, the faint, sharp and mineral tang of the fresh, wet ink. The complexity is beautiful, grounding and profoundly peaceful. The slow and deliberate exploration of the senses now arrives at the final and most intimate gate, the sense of taste. The focus of the mind's eye returns once more to the small table, and specifically to the teacup, now waiting patiently for a second visit. The level of the warm golden liquid is slightly lower than before, and the steam that rises from it is a little softer, a little less vigorous, a gentle and constant sigh. The memory of the first sip's profound warmth is still present, a gentle and pleasant, lingering heat in the very center of the chest. This memory creates a soft and simple anticipation, a quiet and uncomplicated desire to repeat this small and perfect pleasure, to once more invite that beautiful and soothing warmth into the body. Looking with the mind's eye, the liquid inside the cup now seems to be a slightly deeper and more resonant shade of amber, as the chamomile flowers have had more time to steep and to release their gentle and healing essence. The single tiny petal still floats serenely and perfectly on its surface, a small and constant companion on this quiet journey. A simple and pleasant desire for the taste and the warmth arises, free from all complexity or demand. It is the pure and uncomplicated feeling of looking forward to a small and deeply satisfying pleasure. It is a gentle and beautiful form of the most fundamental and life-affirming impulse, the desire for comfort, for warmth, for a small and simple taste of sweetness. The taste of chamomile is the taste of calm itself. It is a flavor that is inextricably linked with quiet evenings, with bedtime stories, with the gentle and benevolent medicinal power of the natural world. It brings to mind the soft and caring hands of a loved one offering a soothing remedy. It is a flavor that feels inherently and profoundly kind. A new and quiet intention forms. The intention is to drink this next sip with an even greater and more profound awareness than the first, to consciously and deliberately follow the sensation of the flavor and the feeling of the warmth as it travels from the cup to the mouth and down into the very center of the being, paying attention to every subtle nuance of the journey. The pen, which has been held loosely in one hand, is now carefully and silently laid down across the open page of the notebook, coming to rest with a soft and final stillness. The hands are now both free, and they move together, in perfect and graceful synchrony, from the lap toward the waiting cup. The cup is lifted once again, with the gentle and reverent care of both hands, and brought to the lips. Another slow, deliberate sip is taken, but this time the warm liquid is consciously held in the mouth for a single, quiet moment, allowing the taste buds to fully and completely appreciate its delicate and beautiful flavor profile before it is finally and gratefully swallowed. The warmth is still present, but it is now less intense, a deep and gentle heat rather than a sharp one. The floral and slightly sweet flavor of the chamomile is more pronounced, more complex, more nuanced than before. A profound and deeply soothing sensation of liquid peace spreads from the throat to the stomach and out into every limb of the body. In this moment of profound and multi-layered peace, a strange and beautiful alchemy begins to occur. The entire scene, the small and perfect circle of light, the deep and gentle shadows that surround it, the waiting notebook, the warm and fragrant cup, all of it begins to merge and dissolve into a single unified and indescribable tableau of pure and perfect contentment. The various and distinct sensory inputs, the deep warmth in the stomach from the tea, the soft and rough texture of the chair under the fingertips, the gentle and complex scent that hangs in the air, the deep and profound silence of the house, all of them begin to blur and bleed into one another. The firm and reliable boundaries that separate the senses begin to soften and dissolve. The golden light from the lamp seems to be the source and the substance of it all. It does not just illuminate the scene. It seems to be the warmth. It seems to be the silence. It seems to be the comfort. Its rich and gentle color is the precise and perfect color of the feeling of peace itself. It is a light that can be felt and tasted and heard. An immediate and profound sense of unity, and deep interconnectedness washes over the spirit. The arbitrary and constructed boundaries between the different senses have completely dissolved, leading to a single, powerful, and overwhelming feeling of blissful and uncomplicated contentment. There is no separation, only a single harmonious and beautiful whole. This perfect and magical moment feels like a beautiful and resonant chord in music, where different and distinct notes combine in a perfect and mathematical harmony to create a new sound that is far greater and more beautiful than the simple sum of its parts. It is the feeling of all the separate and disparate elements of life coming into a moment of perfect, profound, and effortless alignment. A deep and silent wave of pure and overwhelming gratitude washes over the spirit. It is a thankfulness for this perfect and fleeting moment of being. It is the profound and sudden realization that this state of deep and simple peace is not something that must be achieved or earned, but is something that is always present, always waiting to be noticed when all the senses are open, quiet, and perfectly aligned. The body, as if in response to this profound realization, gives up its last and final vestige of deliberate posture. The head lolls just a fraction of an inch to one side, coming to rest even more heavily and completely against the soft and supporting back of the chair. The hands, which had been gently cradling the cup, now return to the lap, where they lie open and completely, utterly relaxed. The eyes, which may have been open to observe this quiet magic, now close completely, not to focus on a single sense, but to better and more fully experience the unified and harmonious whole. The attention itself is allowed to become soft, diffuse, and unfocused, simply bathing in the total sensory experience without any need to analyze or separate or understand it. In this final and beautiful surrender, the inner and the outer worlds completely merge. The golden light from the lamp is felt on the skin as a profound and gentle warmth. The deep and resonant silence of the house is felt on the eardrums as a soft and velvety texture. The feeling of deep comfort has a sweet and floral taste. There is no separation, only a single, profound and unwavering state of deep and perfect peace. In the deep and perfect stillness of the armchair, where the body is held in a state of absolute and unconditional comfort, the mind finds itself untethered. The gentle and constant warmth of the lamplight, the profound and enveloping silence of the house, and the deep internal peace from the warm tea create a perfect sensory vessel, a safe and quiet harbor. It is in this state of supreme and unguarded peace that the anchors of the present moment begin to gently dissolve, not through effort, but through a profound and effortless release. The internal state is one of absolute equilibrium. The rhythmic and almost imperceptible rise and fall of the chest is the only movement in this quiet universe. The air itself feels thick with tranquility, a soft and heavy blanket of pure and simple contentment. It is a feeling so complete, so lacking in any need or desire, that the mind, freed from its duty as a navigator of the immediate world, naturally and gracefully begins to drift, to turn its gaze inward. The eye, even from behind a closed lid, can sense the slow and silent ballet of the dust motes dancing in the warm beam of the lamplight. They emerge from the deep and gentle shadows, shine with a brief and brilliant incandescence for a single, magical moment, and then drift back into the soft and welcoming darkness. They are like tiny, silent thoughts, emerging from the vast and quiet subconscious, each one a tiny and fleeting star in a universe of peace. A feeling of gentle and pleasant detachment takes hold, a sense of the mind being a quiet and benevolent observer of its own internal landscape. It is the feeling of a small and sturdy boat whose moorings have been softly and silently untied, now free to drift on a calm and silent sea. There is no destination, no direction, only a profound and trusting surrender to the gentle and benevolent currents of the inner world. This sensation of safe and aimless drifting is deeply reminiscent of that magical, liminal state of childhood, just on the cusp of sleep. That perfect and fleeting moment where the sharp edges of the waking world begin to soften and blur, where logic gives way to a gentle and tumbling stream of images and feelings that bubble up from some deep and mysterious wellspring, free from all judgment or control. There is no conscious decision to remember, no effort to seek out a specific moment from the past. Instead, a quiet and profound intention of pure receptivity forms in the mind. It is a gentle and loving act of surrender, a simple and silent invitation to whatever memory is waiting in the quiet wings of the heart to come forward and present itself. It is the creation of a quiet, warm and welcoming space. The eyes, which were already softly closed, now relax even further, releasing a final, tiny and unconscious knot of tension in the muscles around them. The breath, which was already slow and deep and regular, now becomes almost imperceptible, a slow and silent tide that barely disturbs the profound stillness of the body. The conscious mind does not travel or search, but simply allows. It gently and lovingly steps aside, becoming a silent and benevolent host, waiting patiently for its guest to arrive. It is a passive and beautiful act of pure and unconditional reception, a holding of a quiet and sacred space, a vigil of peace. And in this perfect and welcoming stillness, the first faint and beautiful fragment of the memory arrives. It is not a picture, not a sound, not a thought, but a pure and simple sensory impression, the distinct and unmistakable feeling of bright, warm and gentle sunlight on the skin of the face and the closed eyelids. The deep and gentle darkness behind the eyes begins to lighten, to warm, shifting from a soft and velvety black to a deep and beautiful reddish gold. The feeling of sunlight solidifies, and a place forms around it. It is a wide and generous wooden porch, bathed in the thick, hazy and deeply golden light of a late spring afternoon from many, many years ago. The world is seen through a soft and gentle focus, as if viewed through a warm and benevolent haze. The brilliant sunlight filters down through the broad green leaves of a nearby tree, creating a constantly shifting and dappled pattern of bright light and soft shadow on the old, weathered floorboards. The air itself is warm and thick with the most beautiful and complex perfume. The dominant scent is the dry, sweet and almost spicy smell of old sun-baked wood, a fragrance that speaks of time and stability and countless other warm and peaceful afternoons. Woven through this is the heady, sweet and intoxicating perfume of blooming wisteria from a vine that climbs the porch railing, its fragrance carried on a gentle and almost imperceptible breeze. The gaze of the memory drifts down and settles on the porch railing. It is painted a simple, clean white, but the paint is old and has surrendered in many places to the sun and the rain. It is peeling in long, thin and gracefully curling strips, revealing the weathered silver-grey wood that lies beneath. A single perfect and delicate wisteria blossom has fallen and now rests in a narrow crack between two of the floorboards. Its vibrant and delicate purple a tiny and perfect jewel of color against the pale and sun-bleached wood. A feeling of profound and immediate nostalgia washes over the spirit, a sensation so pure and so sweet that it is almost a physical ache in the very center of the chest. It is the magical and deeply disorienting feeling of being instantly and completely transported to another time, another place. It is a sense of a profound and unexpected homecoming to a moment of perfect and uncomplicated peace. This specific and powerful combination of warm, dappled light and the sweet, complex scent of flowers and sun-baked wood connects directly to the feeling of childhood itself. It is the feeling of those long and seemingly endless afternoons of spring and summer, where time seemed to stretch on forever, and the world was a place of simple, profound, and deeply satisfying sensory wonders. It is the feeling of absolute and unconditional safety. A deep and silent wish arises from the heart, a quiet and gentle prayer to simply stay within this perfect and golden memory, a desire to linger in this beautiful and benevolent light, to breathe this warm and fragrant air, to feel this uncomplicated and deeply grounding warmth for just a little while longer. It is a moment of pure and grateful immersion in the profound beauty of the past. Within the memory, the body of the younger self, the self who is living this perfect moment, takes a long, slow, and deeply intentional breath, a conscious and deliberate act of trying to inhale and hold and possess this beautiful, complex, and fleeting scent of the perfect afternoon. The younger self, with a slow and gentle movement, sits down not in a chair but directly upon the warm, sun-baked wooden steps of the porch. It is a quiet and deliberate folding of the body, a desire to get closer to the warmth and the scent and the solid grounding reality of the old weathered boards. The immediate and beautiful sensation is of the pleasant dry warmth of the wood seeping through the thin fabric of clothing, a deeply comforting and grounding heat. The perspective of the world shifts, now viewed from a much lower angle. The tiny golden dust motes that dance in the sunbeams are now at eye level, a swirling and silent galaxy of light in the warm and hazy air. The focus of the memory now shifts and settles upon another figure on this golden and peaceful porch. It is an older person, a beloved and gentle figure, sitting in a simple and weathered wooden rocking chair. They are a picture of absolute and unwavering tranquility, the very anchor of this peaceful scene. The chair moves back and forth, in a slow, steady, and deeply hypnotic rhythm. The dappled sunlight plays across their form, highlighting the pure silver in their hair and the deep, kind lines etched on their face. The soundtrack of this memory is a quiet and beautiful music. It is the gentle, rhythmic, and deeply comforting creak, creak, creak of the rocking chair's old wooden runners on the porch floorboards. It is a slow, steady, and reliable sound, the very heartbeat of this peaceful moment. Woven through this is an even softer, more subtle rhythm, the gentle shuff-shuff of a soft cloth being moved in a slow and circular motion against the surface of old leather. The gaze of the memory focuses on the hands. They are old hands, the skin thin and beautifully mapped with a fine network of veins and a gentle scattering of dark age spots. But they are strong and steady and sure. They hold a small, round, and slightly dented tin of dark shoe polish, the wax inside dark and fragrant. One hand expertly applies the wax with a soft, clean cloth, while the other holds a very old leather shoe perfectly still. The leather is cracked and deeply creased, a testament to a long and useful life, but the slow and patient polishing is bringing a deep, rich, and beautiful luster back to its worn surface. An overwhelming and deeply comforting feeling of love and safety fills the heart. The very presence of this person is a bastion of unwavering calm and profound stability. Their simple, focused, and deeply rhythmic action is a visual mantra, a quiet and beautiful demonstration of competence and peace that is deeply and powerfully reassuring to the soul. This quiet and beautiful scene connects to a broader and more profound understanding of meaningful work. It is the realization that there is a deep and abiding dignity and a powerful meditative peace to be found in simple, manual, and restorative tasks. It is a quiet and beautiful rebellion against a world that so often values speed and distraction over the slow, patient, and loving application of care. A silent and rhetorical question forms in the mind of the younger self, a question born of pure and simple admiration and a deep and heartfelt desire to understand. How can a person be so completely and utterly at peace with the world? How can they find such a deep and perfect contentment in such a simple and humble task? The younger self, still sitting on the warm and sun-baked steps, now pulls their knees up tightly to their chest, wrapping their arms around them in a gesture of making oneself small and safe and secure. It is a physical posture of quiet, reverent, and deeply focused observation, a desire to absorb the profound peace of the scene. The eyes of the younger self become completely and utterly fixed upon the slow and rhythmic movement of the hands and the polishing cloth. The gaze is unwavering, hypnotic, and completely absorbed in the simple, repetitive, and deeply beautiful magic of the task that is being so gently and so lovingly performed. The sharp, chemical, and not unpleasant smell of the shoe polish now faintly reaches the nose, a clean and pungent note that cuts gently through the sweeter and heavier scent of the wisteria. It is the smell of care, of maintenance, of the loving and deliberate act of preserving something old and beautiful and valuable. This scent becomes forever and inextricably linked with the sound of the creaking rocking chair. The perfect and golden silence of the afternoon is now gently broken. The focus of the memory shifts from the visual to the auditory as the older figure begins to speak. The world of sound narrows to their gentle, low, and deeply resonant voice. Their words are not loud or forceful, but are as soft and as steady and as deeply comforting as the slow and steady rhythm of their rocking chair. The conversation seems to rise as naturally and as beautifully from the shared silence as a spring of fresh water from the quiet earth. The voice itself is the primary sensation. It is a low, gentle, and melodic rumble, a voice that has been softened and weathered and made beautiful by the passage of much time. It has a quality of deep and unshakable calm, a resonance that seems to vibrate not in the ears, but in the very bones. The words are spoken slowly, with long, comfortable, and meaningful pauses between them, allowing each one to be fully and completely absorbed. The older figure does not stop their quiet and gentle work as they speak. Their hands continue their slow, rhythmic, and deeply hypnotic polishing. They do not look up from their task, which gives their words a feeling of being a deep and profound internal truth that is being spoken aloud for the first time, rather than a direct and forceful lecture. Their head remains slightly bowed in concentration, the dappled sunlight catching the gentle and kind curve of their cheek. The words, when they come, land not in the intellect, but directly and powerfully in the heart. It is the profound and beautiful feeling of being truly and deeply seen and understood, of being given a piece of gentle and life-altering wisdom that feels like a precious and sacred gift. There is a sense of profound relief, the gentle and miraculous lifting of a heavy and invisible burden that was not even consciously known to be there. This gentle and quiet conversation stands in stark and beautiful contrast to all the other louder voices in the world, the voices of teachers, of bosses, of society at large, that speak endlessly of the need for ambition, for achievement, for a relentless and striving form of success. This was a quiet and revolutionary voice that spoke of a different, deeper, and more profound kind of success. The simple, beautiful, and lifelong success of being true to one's own gentle and authentic nature. A quiet, profound, and sacred vow is made in that perfect and golden moment by the younger self. It is a silent promise to remember these words forever, to hold them in the heart as a secret and powerful compass, to try, in one's own small and humble way, to live by their gentle and deeply revolutionary wisdom. It is a moment of quiet and permanent reorientation of the soul's most fundamental values. The younger self, still huddled on the warm and sun-baked steps, now rests their chin upon their knees. The posture is one of deep and reverent listening, the body perfectly still and silent so as not to miss a single soft and precious word. The entire world has shrunk to the sound of this one kind and gentle voice. The older figure pauses their polishing for just a single, perfect moment. They dip the soft cloth back into the small round tin of wax, a slow and deliberate circling motion. This small, quiet, and deeply meaningful action serves as a form of punctuation, a moment of profound silence that gives their beautiful and simple words an even greater weight and significance. And then, after the words have been spoken and have been allowed to settle in the warm and fragrant air, the gentle, rhythmic shuff-shuff of the polishing resumes, joined once more by the steady and comforting creak, creak of the chair. These sounds are no longer just background noise. They are now the gentle and constant underscore to the profound wisdom that has just been shared, weaving the words into the very fabric of the unforgettable afternoon. The specific, sharp details of the memory now begin to soften and blur at the edges. The dappled light, the peeling white paint, the steady and polishing hands, they all begin to gently and gracefully dissolve into a single, unified, and deeply resonant atmosphere. What remains is not a picture, but a pure and powerful feeling state, a warm, golden, and completely safe emotional space. The specific sounds and the particular sense of the memory also begin to merge into one. The gentle creaking of the rocking chair, the low and soothing voice, the sweet and fragrant flowers, the warm and ancient wood. They are no longer separate and distinct notes, but have become a single, harmonious, and deeply beautiful chord of pure and unconditional safety. It is the feeling of being held and protected not by a person, but by the perfect and benevolent moment itself. The only visual that remains sharp and clear is the gentle, steady back-and-forth motion of the rocking chair itself. It has become a visual mantra, a pendulum of profound and unwavering peace, a constant and reliable rhythm that represents the core and beautiful essence of the memory's most precious gift: stability, constancy, and the quiet and powerful assurance that life at its core has a gentle and reliable rhythm. An overwhelming and deeply profound feeling of peace floods the present-day self, here and now, in the deep and comfortable armchair. It is the core and essential emotion of the memory, perfectly extracted and distilled, and it now washes over the soul like a warm and gentle tide. It is the beautiful, powerful, and unshakable feeling of being fundamentally and unconditionally okay. This feeling is instantly recognized as the ultimate and most powerful antidote to all the anxiety and the uncertainty of adult life. It is the deep, foundational, and life-altering belief that one does not need to strive or struggle or perform for worthiness, but that one is inherently and completely worthy of love and peace simply by existing. It is the feeling of a deep and powerful internal anchor, holding fast and true in a sometimes stormy and unpredictable sea. A powerful and deeply moving wave of gratitude arises for the simple and miraculous existence of this memory, a profound thankfulness that this perfect, golden, and profoundly healing moment happened, and that it was recorded so perfectly in the heart, and that it can be revisited and its power brought forward from the deep and distant past to nourish and to sustain the present. Back in the present, here in the deep and quiet stillness of the armchair, a single silent tear escapes from the corner of a softly closed eye. It is not a tear of sadness or of loss, but a tear of pure, overwhelming, and deeply grateful emotion, a tiny and perfect liquid jewel of pure feeling. The mind now consciously holds on to this beautiful and powerful feeling. It does not analyze it or try to cling to it with a sense of desperate attachment, but simply and gently creates a space for it to exist. It is an act of gentle and loving witness, a quiet and unconditional allowing of the warmth and the peace of the memory to fully and completely permeate the present moment. The single warm tear begins its slow and silent journey down the side of the face, tracing a tiny, wet and shimmering path across the temple. It is a warm and salty and profoundly real physical manifestation of the deep and beautiful emotion that is being so gently and so gratefully experienced. The golden light of the memory's porch now begins to slowly and gently dim. The sun is setting within the memory itself. The warm, honeyed gold of the afternoon softens and deepens into the richer, warmer and more poignant tones of orange and rose. The shadows grow longer, deeper and softer, gently and slowly reclaiming the beautiful and sacred scene. The specific sounds of the memory now begin to fade into the distance. The rhythmic creaking of the rocking chair grows quieter, more distant, and then finally falls silent. The gentle and deeply comforting voice is no longer heard, but its profound and beautiful echo remains as a palpable and permanent feeling of warmth and peace in the heart. The air grows cooler, the scent of the flowers less potent, replaced now by the cool, damp and earthy smell of the coming evening. The final and most poignant image to fade is the perfect and beloved silhouette of the older figure in the rocking chair, a dark, familiar and deeply comforting shape against the last beautiful and fading colors of the sunset. Their gentle rhythmic motion slows, and then with a final gentle rock comes to a complete and perfect stillness. There is no sadness or sense of loss in the fading of this beautiful vision. It feels as natural, as peaceful, and as perfectly right as the gentle and inevitable end of a perfect day. What is left behind in its wake is not a feeling of emptiness, but a profound and lingering sense of warmth and deep and abiding gratitude. The memory is gone, but its precious and life-altering gift remains. The fading of the memory is like the final, beautiful and deeply resonant chord of a piece of music, fading slowly and gracefully into a perfect and meaningful silence. The music is over, but its profound emotional impact, its deep and simple beauty, continues to vibrate within the listener long, long after the last and final note has been played. A quiet and heartfelt promise is made, a silent and sacred vow sent back through time to the memory and to the beloved and gentle person within it. It is a promise to carry their gentle and revolutionary wisdom forward, a promise to be kinder and more gentle to oneself, a promise to remember that this deep and abiding peace is always and forever accessible, a quiet and golden and permanent room within the self. Back in the deep and quiet comfort of the armchair, a long, slow and deeply intentional breath is taken in, as if to inhale the last beautiful and golden remnants of the memory's fading light. The single warm tear that rests upon the cheek is allowed to simply be a small and salty and beautiful testament to the journey that has just been taken. The mind now gently and deliberately lets go of the last and final images of the memory. It is not a forceful pushing away, but a soft and gentle release, like opening a hand and letting a beautiful and beloved butterfly fly away when it is ready. The focus of the attention slowly and gracefully returns to the immediate and gentle reality of the present moment. The deep and gentle darkness behind the closed eyelids, which had been a warm and hazy gold, now slowly returns to a soft and velvety black. The immediate, real, and present sensation of the armchair's rough and comforting fabric and the lamp's constant benevolent warmth re-emerges, but it now feels different. It feels deeper, richer, and more profound, for it is now infused with the beautiful and enduring gift of warmth and peace that the memory has left behind. The golden, hazy light of the memory does not vanish abruptly, but recedes with the slow and graceful dignity of a setting sun. Its warmth lingers not on the skin, but deeper, in the very center of the chest, a soft and radiant ember left behind by a beautiful and benevolent fire. The mind, having traveled so far, now returns fully to the quiet and immediate reality of the armchair, to the gentle and constant companionship of the lamplight, and to the deep and profound silence of the room. The transition is seamless, a gentle and perfect dissolve from one state of peace into another. The most profound sensation is this lingering internal warmth, a beautiful and resonant echo of the love and safety that the memory held. It is a feeling that is both emotional and strangely physical, a gentle and pleasant pressure in the heart that feels like the afterglow of a deep and heartfelt embrace. It is the palpable and undeniable evidence that the journey into the past was not just an act of imagination, but an act of profound and real nourishment for the soul. Still resting on the cheek, a single silent tear remains, the only tangible artifact of the deep and beautiful emotional journey that has just been taken. In the warm and gentle light of the lamp, it catches a single bright highlight, a tiny and perfect sphere of liquid light that holds a microscopic, distorted reflection of the room. It is a jewel of pure and unadulterated feeling, a salty and sacred offering given in response to a beautiful and unexpected gift. The very first thought that surfaces in the quiet and receptive mind is one of pure and simple gratitude. It is not yet a gratitude for any specific thing, but a profound and almost overwhelming thankfulness for the simple, miraculous human capacity to remember, to feel, and to be so deeply moved. It is a quiet and sudden awe for the beautiful and mysterious architecture of the heart, which can hold such perfect golden rooms within its secret and silent chambers. This feeling connects to a broader and more beautiful understanding of the self as a kind of portable sanctuary. It is the profound and life-altering realization that no matter how cold or difficult the external world may become, there is always this quiet and internal landscape to which one can retreat. These memories are not ghosts of a lost past, but are living, breathing, and eternally accessible wellsprings of warmth and peace, a private and inalienable treasure. This first, simple thought of gratitude now culminates in a silent and heartfelt acknowledgement of this incredible and often overlooked human gift. It is a profound and simple appreciation for the richness that memory brings to the quiet and beautiful solitude of the present moment. A silent, internal word of thanks is offered up to the universe for the simple and beautiful magic of being a feeling, remembering creature. The body, which has been in a state of almost perfect stillness, now prepares for the slightest of movements. A single, slow and deeply intentional breath is taken in, a conscious effort to fully and completely integrate the beautiful, lingering warmth of the memory into the physical and present reality of the body. It is a breath of acceptance, of integration, of profound and quiet thanks. The fingertips of one hand, which had been resting softly and forgotten on the lap, now begin to move with an infinite and loving slowness. They lift, traveling through the warm air on a slow and deliberate journey toward the face, their purpose to gently and reverently acknowledge the single salty and beautiful tear. The immediate and profound sensory consequence is the feeling of the cool, wet tear against the warm, dry skin of the fingertip. It is a tiny and beautiful shock of temperature and texture. The small amount of moisture is instantly absorbed, leaving behind only the faintest, almost imperceptible trace of salt, a final, physical, and deeply grounding punctuation mark at the end of a long and beautiful emotional sentence. The feeling of gratitude, now fully anchored in the present moment, begins to expand its focus. The awareness gently and lovingly radiates outward from the internal warmth of the heart to the immediate, tangible, and benevolent reality of the physical environment. The armchair is no longer just a piece of furniture. It is perceived anew as a conscious and willing accomplice in this profound state of peace, its deep and soft cushions, a constant and unconditional embrace. The lamp is not a machine, but a gentle and steadfast sun. The most powerful non-visual sensation in this expanded awareness is the profound and protective quality of the silence. It is no longer a simple absence of noise, but is now felt as a positive and powerful presence, a thick and soft and heavy blanket that has been gently laid over the entire house, muffling the distant, irrelevant and forgotten sounds of the outside world. It is a silence that has a texture, a weight, and a deeply benevolent and shielding power. The eye, from behind its still-closed lid, can perfectly picture the way the lamplight falls upon the floor. It creates a distinct and perfect circle of warm golden light, a sharp but gentle boundary between the illuminated world of the immediate sanctuary and the soft, deep, and peaceful shadows that lie beyond. This line of light is not a barrier of exclusion, but a beautiful and clear demarcation of a sacred and consecrated space. A new and powerful wave of gratitude now arises, a thankfulness that is directed toward these simple, tangible, and inanimate things. Our deep and heartfelt appreciation for the solid and comforting reality of the chair that holds, the light that warms, and the profound and beautiful silence that protects. It is a pure and simple gratitude for the physical and undeniable reality of home. This feeling connects to the deep, ancient, and almost animalistic instinct to create a nest. It is the quiet and profound satisfaction of having gathered the simple materials of one's life and having woven them together through a series of small and conscious choices into a space that is not just a shelter from the rain, but a true and profound sanctuary for the soul. This room in this moment is the perfect and beautiful expression of that instinct. The thought solidifies into a quiet and deeply satisfying recognition. This piece was not an accident. It is the direct and beautiful result of a long series of conscious choices, of valuing quiet over noise, of choosing comfort over pretense, of deliberately cultivating a space for the soul to breathe. A sense of gentle, humble, and deeply satisfying pride in this simple and beautiful creation arises in the heart. The hand that is not resting on the cheek now prepares for a new and gentle action. It lifts ever so slightly from the lap. The fingers, which had returned to a state of soft and passive relaxation, now uncurling with a slow and deliberate intention, preparing to consciously and gratefully engage with the physical world that has just been so deeply appreciated. The hand moves with a slow and loving grace and comes to rest gently upon the rough and familiar fabric of the arm of the chair. This time the touch is different. It is not an act of idle exploration, but a conscious and deliberate gesture of connection and of thanks. It is a silent, gentle, and deeply heartfelt pat of appreciation for a steadfast and silent friend. The familiar, warm, and slightly rough texture of the fabric is now felt not just by the nerves in the fingertips, but by the heart itself. The simple physical sensation is now deeply imbued with a new and beautiful layer of meaning. The warmth of the hand seems to be met and answered by a deep and benevolent warmth from the chair itself, a silent and reciprocal flow of profound and simple gratitude. The gaze of the mind, still expanding its circle of gratitude, now comes to rest upon the small table that stands so patiently and so faithfully beside the chair. It is a small and perfect island of purpose within the larger ocean of peace. Upon its surface, the carefully arranged objects, the half-empty teacup, the open notebook, the silent, waiting pen, are seen in a new and beautiful light. The most powerful sensory impression from this small tableau is a complex and harmonious blend of warmth and coolness, of potential and of peace. There is the gentle, radiant, and now slightly diminished warmth from the teacup, a silent and constant offering, and beside it, the cool, dry, and patient presence of the notebook and the pen, their surfaces smooth and neutral to the touch, their inner potential for expression held in a state of perfect and graceful repose. The eye of the mind focuses with a new and profound appreciation on the beautiful and simple form of the pen. It lies at a slight and pleasing angle across the open page, its dark wooden body a strong and quiet line, its simple silver clip a single bright and hopeful point of light. It is no longer just a tool for writing. It is now seen as a beautiful and powerful instrument of clarification, a magic wand for turning the chaos of feeling into the quiet and ordered beauty of form. An immediate and deeply moving sense of appreciation arises for these simple and humble objects. They are not merely things, but are now understood to be willing and powerful allies in the gentle and lifelong practice of self-care. The tea is a tool for soothing, the notebook is a tool for listening, and the pen is a tool for understanding. They are the simple, sacred, and deeply effective instruments of a personal and deeply healing peace. This feeling connects to a beautiful and ancient tradition of ritual. It brings to mind the quiet and reverent way a painter might clean their brushes after a day of beautiful work, or the careful and loving way a musician might polish their instrument after a moving performance. It is the profound and simple recognition that the tools that help us to connect with our deepest and most authentic selves deserve our deep and abiding respect and our gentle and heartfelt gratitude. A silent and beautiful thought culminates in the mind. These are the weapons I choose to fight the noise and the chaos of the world. Not weapons of aggression or of violence, but weapons of stillness, of warmth, and of gentle introspection. A profound and deeply empowering sense of gratitude arises for having discovered and for having chosen such simple, beautiful, and profoundly effective tools for living. The hands, which had been resting on the arm of the chair and on the cheek, now move in a slow and graceful synchrony. The hand on the cheek gently and finely wipes away the last faint trace of the tear, a final and gentle act of closure. The other hand moves from the arm of the chair and travels through the warm air toward the table. With a slow and loving deliberateness, the fingers of that hand come to rest for a single perfect moment on the cool and smooth wooden body of the pen where it lies across the notebook. It is not a gesture of preparing to write, but a simple, silent, and deeply meaningful touch of pure and simple appreciation. The immediate and beautiful sensory consequence of this touch is the feeling of the pen's cool, smooth, and solid reality. It is a grounding and deeply reassuring sensation. A new and gentle wave of warmth seems to flow from the heart, down the arm, and through the fingertips. A silent and heartfelt transmission of pure and simple gratitude to this beautiful and humble object. The ever-widening circle of gratitude now turns completely inward, a final and deeply intimate rotation of awareness. The focus gently and lovingly withdraws from the external world of chairs and lamps and pens and comes to rest upon the quiet and miraculous reality of the body itself. It is a silent and profound acknowledgement of the physical vessel that makes this entire and beautiful experience of peace possible. The most immediate and powerful internal sensation is the constant, steady, and completely effortless rhythm of the breath. It is a gentle and tireless internal tide, the rise and fall of the chest, a quiet and miraculous engine that has been running faithfully and without a single moment's rest from the very first second of life. It is the body's own quiet and beautiful song of existence, a constant and gentle mantra of pure and simple aliveness. From behind the closed eyelids, the mind's eye now pictures the body itself, resting in the deep and gentle embrace of the chair. It is a picture of profound and beautiful repose. The limbs are heavy and completely relaxed, the posture soft and unstructured, the face smooth and completely free from any tension. It is a body that has been given the rare and beautiful gift of complete and total rest. A new and even deeper wave of gratitude now arises, a profound and almost overwhelming thankfulness for the simple and miraculous gift of this body. A quiet and heartfelt appreciation for the lungs that breathe, for the heart that beats, for the skin that feels, for the ears that hear the silence, and for the complex and beautiful nervous system that is capable of achieving this profound and deeply healing state of calm. This feeling connects to a sense of profound and gentle compassion for the body, which so often works so hard and endures so much stress and is so frequently ignored or taken for granted in the relentless and forward-moving rush of daily life. It is the beautiful and healing realization that the body is not a machine to be used, but a dear and faithful friend to be cared for and to be listened to. A quiet and heartfelt promise is now made to this dear and faithful friend. It is a silent and sacred vow to listen more closely to its gentle and quiet signals of tiredness and of need. A promise to offer it this gift of deep and profound rest more often, to treat it not as a servant, but as a beloved and deeply cherished partner in the beautiful and challenging journey of life. The body, as if in response to this beautiful and silent promise, now prepares for a small and gentle action of its own. A feeling of deep and pleasant heaviness in the limbs gives way to a gentle and emerging desire for a small and conscious movement, not of restlessness, but of pure and simple appreciation for its own capacity for motion. With a slow and luxurious grace, the arms, which had been resting on the lap and the table, now lift and stretch gently outward. At the same time, the back arches slightly, a gentle and deeply satisfying extension of the spine. The toes point and the fingers spread wide, a slow and silent and beautiful awakening of the entire physical form. The immediate and beautiful sensory consequence is a warm and pleasant rush of feeling through the muscles and the joints. It is the feeling of a profound and satisfying release, a gentle and beautiful resetting of the entire physical system. The small and quiet sounds of the body, a soft click of a joint, a gentle sigh of released tension, are the only sounds in the deep and profound silence of the room. The gentle and grateful focus on the body now expands one final time, reaching back into the abstract and beautiful realm of time itself. The awareness, now fully present in this moment of perfect peace, gently and lovingly acknowledges the long and often difficult journey that was required to arrive at this specific and beautiful destination. It is a quiet and profound recognition of the past self whose efforts made this present peace possible. The strongest non-visual sensation is a feeling of deep and profound continuity. It is the beautiful and life-affirming realization that the self who is experiencing this peace is inextricably and beautifully connected to the self of yesterday, and of last year, and of a decade ago. It is a feeling of a single unbroken thread of existence, a long and winding path that has led through all of its twists and turns to this perfect and quiet moment of arrival. The mind's eye now gently pictures a montage of past selves: the confused and striving student, the nervous and hopeful young adult, the tired and hard-working employee. They are not seen with judgment or with regret, but with a new and profound sense of deep and unconditional compassion. They are seen as the brave and dedicated builders who laid the slow and often difficult foundation upon which this beautiful and quiet house of peace now rests. A deep and powerful feeling of gratitude is now sent back through time to all of these past selves. It is a silent and heartfelt thank you for all of their hard work, for their resilience in the face of difficulty, for their courage in the face of fear, and for every small and often unnoticed choice they made that contributed, in some small and mysterious way, to the creation of this present and beautiful sanctuary. This feeling connects to a more compassionate and complete understanding of the self. It is the profound and healing realization that one is not just the person of this single moment, but is the beautiful, complex, and evolving sum of all the people one has ever been. It is a moment of deep and profound self-forgiveness for past mistakes, and a deep and heartfelt appreciation for the simple and beautiful fact of survival and of growth. A final and deeply moving thought culminates in the quiet and receptive mind. It is a silent and powerful acknowledgement that this profound and beautiful peace is not a fragile and fleeting accident, but is a strong and resilient structure that has been built slowly and patiently over the course of a lifetime. And this realization brings with it a deep, quiet, and unshakable sense of hope for the future. The body, which had been in a state of gentle and luxurious stretching, now prepares for its final and most simple action. The arms, which had been extended, now begin their slow and graceful return journey. A gentle and deliberate folding inward. The head, which had been tilted back, now slowly and gently comes forward to a neutral and comfortable position. With a slow and final grace, the hands come to rest one on top of the other, directly over the heart. It is a gesture of profound and simple self-love, of quiet and unconditional self-acceptance. It is the final and perfect physical expression of the deep and multi-layered gratitude that has been so gently and so thoroughly explored. The immediate and beautiful sensory consequence is the feeling of the gentle and steady beating of the heart beneath the warm and gentle pressure of the hands. It is a quiet, strong, and deeply reassuring rhythm, the body's own constant and beautiful drumbeat of life. It is the final and perfect confirmation that in this moment all is profoundly and completely well. And now all the words, all the thoughts, all the specific and distinct feelings of gratitude begin to gently and gracefully dissolve. The slow and deliberate process of the internal monologue, which has so carefully and so lovingly built this beautiful and complex structure of contentment, now finds that its work is finally and completely done. The scaffolding of thought is no longer needed, for the beautiful building of pure and simple being now stands complete and perfect on its own. The most powerful and all-encompassing sensation is one of pure and unadulterated presence. It is a state of being that is completely and utterly free from the need to think or to analyze or to remember or to plan. It is a feeling of the mind becoming as still, as silent, and as deeply and profoundly peaceful as the room that surrounds it. The mind's eye no longer sees images or pictures, but is simply aware of a gentle, warm, and benevolent darkness. The internal ear no longer hears thoughts or words, but simply listens to the deep and resonant music of the all-encompassing silence. The very concept of a separate self seems to gently and beautifully dissolve, replaced by a simple and profound sense of being one with the peace of the moment. This final and beautiful state of being is a feeling of pure and simple completion. There is absolutely nothing to add and absolutely nothing to take away. It is a moment of such perfect and profound equilibrium that the very idea of desire or of need seems like a strange and distant concept from another, much louder and more complicated universe. This state of pure and wordless contentment is the quiet and fertile ground from which all true peace grows. It is the deep and silent wellspring of joy that exists beneath the noisy and often troubled surface of daily life. It is not an escape from reality, but a profound and deeply healing return to the truest and most fundamental reality of all, the simple and miraculous fact of being. And in this final, beautiful and profound state of wordless being, a new and gentle intention forms, an intention that is not a thought, but a pure and simple physical impulse. It is a desire to give this profound and ineffable feeling of contentment a gentle, silent and visible form. It is the quiet and beautiful culmination of the entire journey. The muscles of the face, which have been in a state of deep and profound relaxation, now begin to receive a new and gentle signal from the heart. It is a slow and beautiful instruction, an invitation to move not with tension or with effort, but with a pure and simple expression of the deep and abiding peace that now fills the entire being. A slow and gentle and completely authentic smile begins to form on the lips. It is not a wide or performative smile for an external audience, but a small, soft and deeply personal smile that is directed entirely inward. It begins at the very corners of the mouth and spreads slowly like a gentle and benevolent warmth across the entire face. The final and beautiful sensory consequence is a gentle and pleasant feeling of lift in the cheeks, a subtle and beautiful shifting of the very landscape of the face. It is the physical and undeniable manifestation of pure and simple joy. It is a smile that needs no reason, no audience, and no words to explain its profound and perfect existence. It is the silent and beautiful signature of a soul that is completely and utterly at peace. The silent, internal smile, which had been a beautiful and effortless expression of pure being, does not vanish in an instant, but dissolves with the slow and gentle grace of a ripple fading on the surface of a perfectly still pond. The gentle lift in the cheek softens. The corners of the mouth slowly and gracefully return to a state of serene neutrality, and the face becomes a smooth and placid landscape of profound and unwavering calm. It is a transition not from joy to solemnity, but from an expressed peace to a quiet, internalized one. The most powerful lingering sensation is the memory of the smile itself. It is a subtle warmth that remains in the facial muscles, a pleasant and gentle afterglow of the profound contentment that gave it birth. It is a physical echo of a spiritual state, a quiet and beautiful reminder that the peace achieved in this sacred time is not an abstract concept, but a real and tangible force that can inhabit and transform the very cells of the body. The hands, which have been resting one on top of the other over the heart, are a perfect and beautiful visual anchor in this moment of transition. The fingers are softly interlaced, a gesture of gentle and secure self-possession. The soft warm lamplight catches the subtle curve of the knuckles and the clean pale half-moons of the fingernails, turning this simple posture into a small and beautiful sculpture of peace and self-love. The very first thought that emerges from the deep and wordless silence is not a complex one, but a simple and gentle recognition. It is the soft and certain knowledge that this part of the evening's journey, this beautiful and sacred ritual of quiet reflection, has reached its natural and perfect conclusion. There is no sense of sadness or of loss, only a deep and satisfying feeling of a circle that has been gracefully and completely closed. This feeling is deeply reminiscent of finishing the final page of a truly wonderful book. There is that same beautiful and poignant mixture of satisfaction and gentle farewell. The story is over, the journey is complete, and what remains is not an emptiness but a profound and resonant fullness, the quiet and beautiful echo of the world that was visited and the emotions that were so deeply felt. It is a perfect and beautiful ending. A quiet and gentle intention now forms in the mind, as soft and as clear as the light in the room. The intention is to conclude this ritual with the same slow, deliberate and reverent care with which it was begun. The purpose is not to rush onward to the next thing, but to honor the beautiful peace that has been cultivated by bringing the ceremony to a slow, graceful and deeply respectful close. The body, as if in response to this new and gentle intention, prepares for its first small act of closure. A single, long, slow, and deeply intentional breath is taken in, and on the long and complete exhalation, the hands that have been resting over the heart begin to slowly and gracefully unclasp from one another. With a slowness that seems to honor the deep and profound peace of the moment, the hands separate and begin a slow and graceful journey back to the lap. They move through the warm and still air, like two silent and gentle dancers, their motion fluid and perfectly synchronized. They come to rest on the soft fabric of the trousers, their journey complete, their posture now one of readiness for the gentle work of desenlace that is to come. The soft and gentle pressure of the hands over the heart is now gone, replaced by the simple and neutral contact of the palms against the lap. The gentle rhythmic beating of the heart, which had been felt so directly, is now a more distant, internal and subtle rhythm. It is the first, small and deeply meaningful act of gentle and respectful separation from the profound intimacy of the moment that has just passed. The focus of the attention, now fully engaged in the process of gentle closure, shifts to the open notebook on the lap. The pen, a dark and beautiful line of polished wood and silver, lies at a slight and pleasing angle across the last sentence that was written. It is a still and perfect tableau of a completed thought, a beautiful and poignant image of a conversation that has reached its natural and satisfying end. The anticipated sensation, even before the hand moves, is the familiar and comforting feeling of the pen's weight and its cool, smooth surface. There is also the memory of its perfect balance in the hand during the fluid and graceful act of writing. The deep and profound silence of the room is a perfect and beautiful canvas for the tiny and almost imperceptible sounds that this next small act of separation will create. The golden nib of the pen, now completely dry, rests with an almost microscopic precision against the dark and permanent ink of the final punctuation mark. The lamplight catches its polished golden surface, turning it into a single sharp and brilliant point of light. It is a tiny and beautiful star that has come to rest at the very end of a small and personal galaxy of thought. An immediate and powerful feeling of gentle and respectful farewell arises in the heart. This is not a final and permanent goodbye to the act of writing, but a simple and beautiful thank you to this faithful and trusted tool for its service on this particular evening. It is a feeling of deep and quiet appreciation for a simple object that has served as a bridge between the inner and the outer worlds. This simple and deliberate act of setting the pen aside is deeply reminiscent of a skilled artisan carefully and respectfully putting away their tools at the end of a long and satisfying day of creative work. It is an act of honor, a silent and unspoken acknowledgement of the partnership that exists between the creator and the instrument of their creation. It is a gesture of profound and simple respect. A quiet and clear intention solidifies in the mind to separate from this beautiful tool not with a sense of dismissal, but with a gesture of pure and simple gratitude. The decision is made to place it down gently, to handle it with the same care and reverence with which it was first picked up, to honor its role in the beautiful and healing ritual that has now come to a close. The hand that is closest to the pen now begins its slow and deliberate journey. It lifts from the lap, the fingers held in a soft and slightly open posture, and moves with a slow and certain grace through the warm and still air. It approaches the pen not with a sense of grasping, but with a gentle and reverent intention of making a soft and respectful contact. The fingertips make contact with the cool, smooth wood of the pen's body. They close around it, and it is lifted slowly and vertically from the surface of the page. The hand then moves it to the side, outside the clean and sacred boundary of the notebook, and places it gently and silently down upon the soft and forgiving fabric of the lap. The immediate and beautiful sensory consequence is that the open page now looks different, unburdened. It is no longer a workspace, but is now a pure and simple record. The sound of the pen settling onto the soft fabric of the trousers is almost non-existent, a tiny and muffled whisper that is instantly absorbed by the deep and profound silence of the room. The hand, now empty, feels strangely and beautifully light. The focus of the gentle ritual of closure now moves to the notebook itself. It still lies open on the lap, its bright and creamy page a beautiful and stark contrast to the dark and soft fabric that surrounds it. It is a landscape of quiet and personal thought, bathed in the warm and benevolent glow of the lamplight, a silent and beautiful testament to the journey that has been taken. The primary non-visual sensation is the faint, dry and scholarly scent of the paper and the ink, a clean and comforting perfume that has been a constant and gentle companion throughout the ritual. There is also the anticipated sound of the cover closing, a soft and satisfying sound of finality that will soon echo in the deep and profound silence. The eye of the mind is drawn with a deep and quiet appreciation to the final punctuation mark, the small and perfect dot of dark ink that represents the end of the final thought. It is a mark of such simple and profound finality, a tiny and beautiful anchor that holds the entire and rambling stream of consciousness in a state of quiet and perfect completion. A deep and powerful feeling of safekeeping arises in the heart. The thoughts and the feelings that have been so gently and so honestly recorded on this page feel vulnerable and precious, and the act of closing the cover is now understood to be an act of gentle and loving protection. It is a gesture of creating a safe and private space for these quiet and personal truths to rest. This simple and deliberate act of closing a book is deeply and beautifully symbolic. It is like the drawing of a curtain at the end of a deeply moving play, or the gentle closing of a treasure chest to protect the precious and beautiful jewels that lie within. It is a way of preserving the magic of the moment, of sealing the beautiful and restorative work that has been done, and protecting it from the harsh and judging light of the outside world. The quiet and firm intention is to close this book not as an act of dismissal, but as a final and profound act of reverence. The decision is made to seal the gentle and honest thoughts within its covers, not with a slam, but with a slow, deliberate, and deeply graceful gesture of gratitude and of finality. It is the last and most important act of care for the work that has been done. One hand, which had been resting on the lap, now slides gently beneath the notebook, its purpose to steady and to support it. The other hand moves with a slow and certain grace to the top, outer corner of the front cover, the thumb and the forefinger poised and ready to begin the slow and beautiful act of closure. The hand lifts the deep and beautiful forest green cover. It travels in a slow, smooth, and perfectly controlled arc through the warm and still air. The descent is not allowed to be hurried by gravity, but is guided with a slow and infinite care, ensuring that the final contact will be as soft and as gentle as a whisper. The final inch of its journey is traversed with an almost imperceptible slowness. The resulting sound is a soft, deep, and deeply satisfying whoomph as the cover makes gentle and firm contact with the pages, a beautiful sound of air being gently and finally pushed out. The bright, open, and vulnerable white of the page is now gone, replaced by the calm, deep, and protective green of the cover. The notebook now feels whole, complete, and perfectly, safely sealed. The next small and simple act in the litany of closure is to complete the ritual with the pen. It lies silent and uncapped upon the lap, its beautiful and delicate golden nib exposed to the air. The cap rests beside it, a dark and hollow shape, its own silver clip catching a small and separate point of light. The two pieces for a moment are separate and distinct, their partnership temporarily dissolved. The most powerful sensory anticipation is the small and precise sound that will be made when the cap is finally and securely screwed back into place. It is a sound of perfect and mechanical rightness, a quiet and satisfying click that will signal the complete and total restoration of the pen to its state of safe and protected rest. From this close proximity, the fine and delicate threads on the body of the pen are just barely visible in the warm lamplight. They are a series of tiny, perfect, and concentric silver lines, an intricate and beautiful piece of engineering, designed for a single and simple purpose, to create a perfect and airtight seal that will protect the delicate and essential nib from the dry and damaging air. A deep and abiding feeling of rightness and of order arises in the mind. The simple and deliberate act of reassembling this beautiful tool is deeply and profoundly satisfying. It is an act of restoring a small and perfect piece of the universe to its correct and harmonious state. It is a gesture of care not just for the object itself, but for the very idea of order and of completion. This small and precise action is deeply reminiscent of any act of careful and deliberate maintenance. It is like the tuning of a musical instrument after it has been played, or the careful cleaning and oiling of a trusted piece of machinery after it has performed its work. It is a simple, humble, and deeply satisfying act of stewardship and of care for the things that serve us so faithfully and so well. A quiet and firm intention solidifies to complete this small and mechanical act with the same mindful and deliberate grace as all the others that have come before it. The purpose is not just to cap the pen, but to do so in a way that is a small and beautiful meditation on the simple and profound beauty of a perfect and precise fit. The hands, which had been resting on the now closed notebook, now move with a new and specific purpose. One hand gently picks up the body of the pen, holding it steady. The other hand picks up the cap. The two pieces are brought together, not with a quick and careless shove, but with a slow and deliberate alignment. With a slow, smooth, and deeply satisfying twisting motion of the fingers and the thumb, the cap begins to engage with the fine and delicate threads of the pen's body. The motion is continued, a slow and steady rotation, until the cap can go no further and comes to a soft and definitive stop. The final and beautiful sensory consequence is a tiny, soft, and almost inaudible click as the inner cap makes a perfect and airtight seal around the nib. The sound is deeply and profoundly satisfying. The feeling of the two separate pieces becoming one whole and complete object is a small and perfect joy. The pen is now safe, and its work for the evening is completely and truly done. The lap, which has served as a temporary and beautiful workspace, is now ready to be cleared. The closed notebook and the now fully capped pen rest upon it, two silent and beautiful artifacts of the journey that has just been completed. The small table beside the chair, the original and proper home for these objects, waits, its surface dark, smooth, and ready to receive them. The most powerful non-visual sensation is the feeling of the object's weight, a gentle and substantial pressure on the lap. There is a deep and profound satisfaction in the coming act of transferring this weight from the self back to the world, a final and definitive act of unburdening, a gesture that will signal the absolute and final completion of the mental and creative work of the evening. The polished dark wood of the side table gleams with a soft and gentle luster in the warm lamplight. It is a clean and ordered surface, a small and perfect altar that is waiting to be restored to its original state of simple and uncluttered peace. Its dark and reflective surface holds a soft and distorted image of the lamp, a quiet and beautiful world of light and shadow. A deep and powerful feeling of restoring order floods the spirit. It is the simple and profound satisfaction that comes from putting things back where they belong. It is an act that brings a sense of closure and of peace, not just to the external environment, but to the internal landscape of the mind as well. It is a simple and beautiful act of creating a small and perfect world of harmony. This act of tidying up is deeply and beautifully symbolic of a larger and more profound life practice. It is the quiet and gentle discipline of leaving a space as beautiful and as peaceful as you found it. It is a small and humble act of respect for the world and for the self, a quiet and beautiful demonstration of the principle of leaving no unnecessary trace, of creating peace, not just for oneself, but for the self who will inhabit this space tomorrow. The quiet and simple intention is to complete this final transfer of objects with a slow and deliberate grace. The purpose is not simply to clear the lap, but to do so in a way that is a final and beautiful gesture of respect for the objects and for the space they inhabit. It is the last act in the beautiful and sacred choreography of the evening's ritual. The hands, which had been resting on the lap, now move to their final and appointed tasks. One hand comes to rest on the smooth, cool cover of the notebook. The other hand gently and securely grasps the now whole and complete body of the pen. The body prepares for the small and simple act of leaning forward. With a single, slow, and fluid motion, the torso leans slightly forward and to the side. The hands travel the short and simple distance from the lap to the table. The notebook is placed down first, with a soft and muffled thud. The pen is then laid gently and silently down beside it, perfectly parallel to its edge. The immediate and beautiful sensory consequence is the feeling of lightness in the lap, which is now completely unburdened. The soft and quiet sounds of the objects settling into their final resting places are the final notes in the beautiful and quiet symphony of the writing ritual. The small table is now once more a perfect and beautiful still life, a tableau of completed peace. The final and most gentle act of the entire ritual of reflection now awaits. It is the teacup, which has been a silent and steadfast companion throughout the entire journey. It rests on the table, its contents now no longer steaming, its purpose as a source of warmth and of comfort now almost completely fulfilled. The circle of this small and perfect pleasure is now ready to be closed. The most immediate sensory impression is the subtle but noticeable change in the temperature of the cup. The deep and penetrating heat that it once held has now softened and gentled into a mild and pleasant warmth. The sweet and floral scent of the chamomile is now more delicate, a faint and beautiful ghost of its former more powerful presence. The liquid within the cup, now a deep and resonant amber, is perfectly still. The tiny, perfect chamomile petal still floats upon its surface, a faithful and silent companion to the very end of the journey. The light from the lamp still penetrates the tea, but the glow it creates is now softer, deeper, and more gentle, a quiet and beautiful light of late evening. A simple, gentle, and uncomplicated desire arises. It is the desire to complete the act of nurturing that was begun so long ago. It is a quiet and simple impulse to honor the gift of this tea by drinking the last of it, by bringing this small and beautiful act of self-care to its natural and deeply satisfying conclusion. There is no feeling of sadness, only a gentle and beautiful sense of completion. The simple and humble act of finishing a cup of tea is a beautiful and universal metaphor for the gentle and graceful acceptance of endings. It is a quiet and powerful acknowledgement that all things, even beautiful and comforting things, have a natural and perfect cycle. To drain the cup is not an act of loss, but an act of full and grateful participation in the beautiful and inevitable flow of life. The final quiet intention is to drink this last small amount of tea with a full and undivided attention. To savor this final taste of warmth and of sweetness, not as an afterthought, but as a deliberate and deeply meaningful final act in the beautiful and sacred ceremony that has unfolded on this quiet and peaceful evening. The hands, which had been resting on the lap, now move together in a slow and final gesture of reception. They travel the short distance to the table, their movement graceful and perfectly synchronized. They do not grasp the cup, but gently and reverently cradle it, their palms and fingers conforming to its smooth and now only pleasantly warm porcelain surface. The cup is lifted from the table and brought to the lips for the final time. The head tilts back slightly, and the last of the liquid is drunk in a single long, slow, and deeply satisfying swallow. The cup is held to the lips for a moment longer, ensuring that the very last and most precious drop has been received. The warmth of the now tepid liquid is a gentle and beautiful final caress to the throat and to the stomach. The final taste of the sweet and floral chamomile is a faint but beautiful echo of its former strength, a gentle and poignant farewell. The body feels a deep and quiet sense of completion, of a small and perfect circle that has now been gracefully and completely closed. The ritual is now complete, but a single, small and final task remains. It is the simple and humble act of returning the empty vessel to its place of origin, a final and important gesture of restoring the world to its state of quiet and perfect order. The journey back to the cool and silent kitchen is the final and beautiful bookend to the evening's quiet and sacred work. The most powerful sensory impression is the surprising and beautiful lightness of the now empty cup. The gentle and substantial weight that it once held is now gone, replaced by a hollow and almost ethereal lack of weight that is a tangible and beautiful confirmation of its fulfilled purpose. It is the feeling of a promise that has been perfectly and completely kept. The mind's eye pictures the kitchen, lying in its state of deep and silent repose. The cool, silvery moonlight still spills across the floor, and the clean and simple lines of the countertops still wait in the quiet and benevolent darkness. It is a space of pure and simple function that is now about to be visited for a final and gentle act of closure. A profound and deeply satisfying feeling of completing the cycle arises in the spirit. To have taken from the kitchen and now to return to it is a simple and beautiful act of ecological and spiritual balance. It is the deeply satisfying feeling of leaving no trace, of moving through the world in a way that is gentle, respectful, and perfectly, beautifully complete. This simple domestic act is deeply and beautifully connected to a larger and more profound spiritual practice. It is the practice of leaving the world a little cleaner, a little more orderly, and a little more peaceful than you found it. It is a small and humble demonstration of the powerful and beautiful idea that true peace is found not just in receiving, but in the quiet and gentle act of restoring. The final, simple, and clear intention is to complete this last and most humble task with the same slow, deliberate, and mindful grace as all the others. The purpose is not just to wash a cup, but to perform a final and beautiful act of closure, a last and quiet dance that will bring the entire and beautiful ceremony of the evening to its perfect and harmonious conclusion. The body, with a slow and gentle push of the hands against the arms of the chair, begins the slow and graceful process of rising. The legs straighten, the back lengthens, and the body comes to a standing position not with a jolt or a grunt, but with a smooth and silent fluidity. The empty cup is held gently and securely in one hand. The slow and silent journey back across the soft and forgiving landscape of the rug begins. The feet are silent. The body is a moving column of peace. The transition from the warm, carpeted floor of the living room to the cool, smooth linoleum of the kitchen is a final and beautiful sensory shift, a clear and tangible signal that the final act is now at hand. In the cool and silent darkness of the kitchen, the cup is placed gently into the sink. The faucet is turned, and the sound of cool, clean water rushing over the porcelain is a final, beautiful and cleansing sound. The cup is rinsed and then placed upside down on a soft and drying cloth, a final and perfect gesture of a cycle that is now completely and beautifully closed. The final act of the evening's gentle ceremony is a journey in reverse, a slow and silent retracing of the path toward peace. The kitchen, with its cool, silvery moonlight and its clean, functional surfaces, is now a place of completed tasks. It is a space of profound and quiet repose, its work for the day now completely and perfectly done. The journey back to the living room is a movement from this cool lunar world and toward the last warm golden ember of the day, the single, steadfast lamp which still burns like a miniature and personal sun in the vast and quiet darkness of the house. The most profound sensory shift is the change in the quality of the air and the sound of the world underfoot. The air in the kitchen is cool, clean and still. As the body crosses the invisible threshold into the living room, the air becomes noticeably warmer, thicker and softer, filled with the gentle, radiant warmth of the lamp. The faint, almost imperceptible sound of bare feet on the cool, smooth linoleum gives way to a deep and profound silence as the feet find the thick, sound-absorbing pile of the living room rug. The eye is drawn forward, across the vast and dark sea of the rug, to the single beautiful island of light. From this distance, the lamplight doesn't just illuminate the space around it. It seems to create it. The light catches the very edge of the rug's thick pile, creating a soft, glowing and golden crescent, the gentle and welcoming shoreline of this final haven of light. The rest of the rug, and indeed the rest of the room, dissolves into a deep, soft and impenetrable darkness. A deep and beautiful feeling of gentle finality settles in the spirit. This is the last and most final journey of the day, a final crossing from a space of action, however gentle, to a space of pure and simple rest. There is a profound sense of satisfaction in this movement, the quiet and certain knowledge that every small and necessary task has been completed, and that the entire house is now in a state of perfect and harmonious order, ready for its long and peaceful sleep. This slow and deliberate walk through the quiet darkness toward a single waiting light feels like a sacred and ancient pilgrimage. It is the journey of a lighthouse keeper, their work for the night now done, the great and powerful lamp now guiding the ships safely on its own as they return to their own small and simple cot for a well-deserved rest. It is a feeling not of ownership, but of gentle and loving stewardship for the peace of this small and beautiful world. A quiet and simple intention solidifies in the mind, to savor these last few moments of this beautiful golden light, to not rush this final act of extinguishing the day, but to move toward the lamp with a slowness and a reverence that honors its faithful and steadfast service. It is a decision to be fully and completely present for the final, gentle and beautiful farewell to the light. The body, which had been standing in a moment of quiet contemplation in the cool silver light of the kitchen, now turns. The movement is not sharp or sudden, but a slow, fluid, and deliberate pivot. The feet, now aligned with their distant golden destination, pause for a single silent beat, a moment of gathering resolve for this final, short, and deeply meaningful journey. The first step is taken. The foot lifts from the cool, smooth surface of the kitchen floor, crosses the invisible boundary, and then settles with a soft and silent grace into the deep, warm, and forgiving pile of the rug. The weight of the body follows in a single smooth and flowing motion, and the journey through the soft and welcoming darkness toward the waiting light begins. The immediate and beautiful sensory consequence of this first step is the complete and total absorption of all sound. The movement feels like a silent and weightless glide through a deep and peaceful sea. As the body draws closer to the lamp, the air becomes noticeably warmer, a gentle and welcoming caress on the skin, a final and beautiful embrace from the last warm and golden breath of the day. The entire world has now contracted to this small and sacred space. The lamp, the small table upon which it rests, and the hand that is now moving into its warm and golden light are the only things that exist. The light is so intimate and so direct that it reveals the hand not as a simple appendage, but as a beautiful and intricate landscape. It catches the fine, almost invisible hairs on the skin, the deep and personal lines of the palm, and the clean, pale and gentle curve of the fingernails. The rest of the world is a soft, deep and out-of-focus blur. The most powerful non-visual sensation is the tangible and radiant warmth that emanates from the lampshade. It is not an aggressive or unpleasant heat, but a soft, dry and deeply comforting warmth that can be felt on the skin of the approaching hand. In the profound silence, this warmth feels like a living and breathing presence, a final, gentle and wordless communication from a dear and faithful friend. The eye of the mind focuses with a new and profound appreciation on the switch itself. It is a small, simple and elegant brass-colored turnkey, its surface worn with a beautiful and honest patina of use. The metal is slightly dulled and has taken on a deeper, darker and more resonant color in the specific and exact places where the thumb and the forefinger have touched it thousands and thousands of times. It is a small and beautiful map of a long and faithful history of service. A profound and deeply gentle feeling of hesitation arises in the heart. It is a quiet and beautiful reluctance to extinguish this last, warm and benevolent source of light. To turn the switch is to say a final and definitive goodbye to the day, and for a single perfect and suspended moment, there is a deep and simple desire to preserve this beautiful and golden piece just a little while longer. It feels like a small and gentle act of betrayal. This quiet and beautiful hesitation is a universal and deeply human feeling. It is the same gentle and poignant reluctance one feels before blowing out the last beautiful candle on a birthday cake, or before closing the cover of a truly magnificent book for the very last time. It is the simple and profound desire to linger for just a moment longer in a world that feels perfect and safe and beautiful. A quiet and gentle intention now forms, an intention to offer a final and heartfelt tribute. A silent and internal word of thanks is directed toward this simple and inanimate object, a deep and sincere gratitude for its steady, silent and unwavering service, not just on this beautiful and peaceful evening, but on every evening. The decision is made to perform this final act, not with sadness, but with a deep and abiding reverence. The hand, which had been moving with a slow and steady purpose, now slows its approach even further, its movement becoming almost imperceptible. The fingers, which had been held in a slightly curled and purposeful posture, now uncurl and soften into a gentle and open gesture of reception, a posture of pure and simple appreciation. With an infinite and loving slowness, the hand moves into the full and direct warmth of the lamplight. It does not immediately move to the switch, but instead stops and hovers for a long, silent and deeply meaningful beat just inches above it. The fingers are poised, the body is perfectly still, and the entire being is holding and honoring this final and beautiful moment of light. The immediate and beautiful sensory consequence is the feeling of the gentle and radiant warmth at its most intense. The golden light completely and utterly envelops the hand, turning it into a beautiful and temporary sculpture of pure and simple light. Every line, every crease, and every pore of the skin is revealed in a sharp, warm, and incredibly beautiful detail. The hand itself seems to glow from within. The world is now poised on the very brink of a profound and irreversible transformation. The small golden and beautifully defined universe that has been created by the lamplight, with its warm and gentle tones and its deep and soft and friendly shadows, is now living out the last and final second of its existence. It is a world of perfect and beautiful peace that is about to be replaced by an entirely new and entirely different world of cool silver and deep velvety black. The most powerful and all-encompassing sensory presence is the deep, absolute and profound silence of the house. It is a silence that seems to be actively listening, to be holding its breath, to be waiting with a deep and patient reverence for the small, sharp, and definitive sound that will completely and irrevocably redefine the entire sensory landscape of the room and of the night. The eye of the mind focuses with an almost microscopic precision on the tiny and beautiful point of contact that is about to be made. It is the meeting of the warm, soft, and living skin of the fingertip with the cool, hard, and inanimate metal of the switch. This tiny and imminent collision of two different worlds is, for this single and perfect moment, the absolute and undeniable center of the entire universe. A deep and profound feeling of serene and peaceful acceptance now washes over the spirit. The gentle and beautiful hesitation has completely passed and has now been replaced by a quiet, calm, and deeply centered readiness for the next and final stage of the night. It is the graceful and beautiful acceptance of a perfect and natural ending, knowing that it is the necessary and beautiful precursor to a deep and restorative rest. This small and deliberate act of extinguishing the light feels like a gentle and deeply loving closing of the eyes of the house itself. It is the final and definitive act of putting the long and beautiful day fully and completely to bed. It is a quiet and gentle tucking in of the entire home for a long, peaceful, and deeply restorative night of quiet and dreamless sleep. The final quiet intention is not to see but to listen, to be fully and completely present not for the light itself, but for the small and beautiful sound of its departure, to honor this profound and final transition by giving the small, clean, and definitive sound of the switch the full, complete, and undivided attention of the heart and of the mind. The fingers, which had been held in a soft and open and hovering posture, now gently and slowly begin to contract. The forefinger and the thumb isolate themselves from the others, becoming the chosen and designated instruments for this final, small, and deeply significant act. A final, slow, and deeply intentional breath is taken in and held for a single silent beat. The hand, which had been poised and hovering, now descends the last small fraction of an inch. The fingertips make contact with the cool, smooth metal of the turnkey. With a small, firm, and yet deeply gentle pressure, and with a slow and deliberate quarter turn, the switch is moved from its position of on to its position of off. The movement is tiny, precise, and absolutely irreversible. The immediate and beautiful sensory consequence is a single, clean, sharp, and definitive click. It is a small sound, but in the profound and absolute silence of the room, it seems as loud, as resonant, and as deeply final as the gentle but firm closing of a great and heavy oaken door. And in that exact and same instant, the entire golden and beautiful world vanishes, plunging the room into a deep, soft, and profoundly velvety darkness. The sudden and absolute absence of the golden light is a profound and beautiful shock to the senses. The world is not empty, but has been instantly and completely transformed. A new and entirely different world, one of cool, silvery, and ethereal moonlight now reigns supreme. For a long and perfect moment, the body remains absolutely and perfectly still, a silent and reverent witness to this magical and instantaneous transformation. The most powerful sensory impression is the feeling of the air itself, which now seems to have become instantly cooler and thinner without the gentle and radiant warmth of the lamp. It is a clean, fresh, and almost crisp coolness that feels deeply and profoundly peaceful on the skin. The eyes, now wide open in the darkness, begin their slow and patient work of adjusting to this new and beautiful, low-light reality. Slowly, gracefully, and almost magically, the familiar and beloved shapes of the room begin to re-emerge from the deep and velvety darkness. They are not the same shapes as before, defined by warm light and soft shadow, but are now beautiful and silent silhouettes, their familiar forms outlined in a soft and gentle silver light against the even deeper and more profound blackness of the shadows that they cast. The armchair is no longer an island of comfort, but is now a great and gentle sleeping beast. A feeling of profound and almost startling beauty fills the heart. The room, in its new and moonlit guise, is just as beautiful and just as peaceful as it was in the warm and golden light of the lamp. It is simply a different kind of beauty, a beauty that is cooler, more mysterious, and more deeply, profoundly quiet. It is the beauty of a world that is completely and totally asleep. This quiet and beautiful act of allowing the eyes to adjust to the darkness is a powerful and beautiful metaphor for all of life's transitions. It is a quiet and gentle reminder that even when a familiar and beloved light is extinguished, the world does not end, but simply transforms. And in that new and different world, if one is simply patient and still and willing to see, a new and different and equally profound kind of beauty will always and inevitably be revealed. A quiet and gentle intention is now formed, an intention to simply stand in this perfect and silvered stillness for a moment longer, to allow the eyes to fully and completely drink in this new and beautiful vision, to honor the profound and quiet beauty of the sleeping house by offering it a final, silent, and deeply appreciative moment of pure and simple witness. The hand, which had been resting on the now cool and silent lamp switch, now slowly and gracefully withdraws. It does not drop to the side, but instead comes to rest gently and reassuringly on the other hand, the fingers softly interlacing in a posture of quiet and complete repose. The body is a single, silent and unmoving column in the cool and silvered air. The head, which had been focused on the lamp, now lifts and begins a slow and graceful turn, a silent and sweeping panoramic gaze across the entire and beautiful landscape of the sleeping room. The eyes do not seek out any specific detail, but simply allow the beautiful and silhouetted forms to drift slowly and gently across their field of vision. The eyes, now fully and completely accustomed to the low and gentle light, can perceive a new and beautiful layer of detail. The faint and silvery sheen on the polished surface of the side table, the deep and absolute blackness of the spaces between the books on the bookshelf, and the soft and subtle texture of the rug, now a vast and mysterious plain of deep and shadowy grey. The world is a masterpiece, painted in 1,000 different and beautiful shades of black and silver. The final journey of the evening can now begin. It is the slow and silent walk away from the center of this quiet and sleeping world, and toward the even deeper and more absolute darkness of the hallway that leads to the final destination of rest. The body, now a part of the beautiful silhouetted landscape, prepares for its final and most silent movement of the day. The most powerful non-visual sensation is the feeling of the cool and slightly drafty air that seems to emanate from the deep and dark maw of the hallway. It is a different coolness from the general and ambient coolness of the moonlit room, a more directed and specific coolness that is the scent and the feel of the even deeper and more profound sleep that waits in the other, more private parts of the house. The eye is drawn to the absolute and impenetrable blackness of the hallway. It is a perfect and beautiful rectangle of pure and simple void, a stark and powerful contrast to the soft and silvered and detailed beauty of the moonlit living room. It is not a frightening or menacing darkness, but a calm, deep, and deeply welcoming one. It is a silent and beautiful invitation to a final and complete surrender. A deep and profound feeling of rightness and of finality settles into the very marrow of the bones. Every task is done, every ritual is complete. The house is now perfectly and completely at peace, and now all that is left is to join it in its deep and beautiful and well-earned slumber. It is the feeling of a long and beautiful day that has reached its perfect and natural and deeply satisfying conclusion. This final and silent walk through the darkness is the ultimate and most beautiful act of trust. It is the trust in the familiar and beloved geography of the home, a geography that is known not by sight but by heart. It is the trust that the path is clear, that the way is safe, and that the destination of deep and perfect rest is waiting, just a few short and silent steps away. The final quiet intention is to move through this beautiful and silvered landscape with the slow, silent and graceful stealth of a nocturnal animal, moving through its own familiar and beloved territory. The purpose is not to disturb a single silent molecule of the profoundly peaceful air, but to become a part of the deep and beautiful silence itself. The feet, which have been planted firmly and silently on the rug, now prepare for their final and most silent journey. The weight of the body shifts, slowly and almost imperceptibly, from one foot to the other, a small and preparatory act of balance and of readiness. The body is now a poised and silent arrow, ready to be loosed into the deep and welcoming darkness. The first step is taken, a slow and infinitely careful lifting and placing of the foot. The movement is so slow and so deliberate that it is completely and utterly silent. The body glides through the cool and silvered air, a silent and graceful shadow moving through a world of other, more permanent and sleeping shadows. The immediate and beautiful sensory consequence is the feeling of the body moving as a part of the silence, rather than as a disturbance to it. The soft and deep pile of the rug completely and utterly absorbs the faint and almost imperceptible pressure of the footfall. The air parts silently before the body and closes in just as silently behind it. It is a movement of perfect and beautiful grace. And now, at the very threshold of the deep and welcoming darkness of the hallway, a final and instinctual pause. It is a last loving and silent look back over the shoulder, a final and beautiful farewell to the room that has been the stage for such a profound and beautiful ceremony of peace. The body turns, slowly and gracefully, for one last and final look. The primary and all-encompassing sensory impression is one of absolute and perfect peace. The room is a beautiful and silent symphony of silver and of black, a world that is completely and utterly at rest. The silence is so deep and so profound that it seems to have a low and beautiful and resonant hum, the quiet and eternal music of a house that is deeply and completely asleep. From this final and slightly detached perspective, the silhouetted form of the armchair can be seen, its familiar and beloved shape, a bastion of deep and profound and unwavering tranquility in the cool and silvered light. The small and silent table beside it is a quiet and humble altar, its ritual now complete. It is a perfect and beautiful tableau, a masterpiece of quiet and simple contentment. A final, profound and all-encompassing wave of love and of gratitude for this simple and beautiful space washes over the spirit. It is a feeling of such deep and quiet and profound affection for this small and personal sanctuary, for this tiny and perfect corner of the world that has been so deliberately and so lovingly crafted into a haven of pure and simple peace. It is the final and most perfect amen. This last, long and loving look is the very definition of contentment. It is the look of the gentle and loving Creator, stepping back to admire their simple and beautiful work, and finding that it is good. It is the quiet, deep and unshakable knowledge that in this one small and perfect place, all is completely and profoundly and perfectly well. And now, with this final and beautiful feeling of contentment held gently and lovingly in the heart, the last and final intention is simply to turn and to surrender to the deep and welcoming darkness that waits. There is nothing left to see, nothing left to do, nothing left to feel but the simple and profound and beautiful promise of a deep and dreamless sleep.